The following podcast contains adult language and themes, so don't say we didn't fucking warn you.
You're listening to Sarah Talk. It's political.
You could run a fucking pet rock against Donald Trump, and I would vote for the pet rock.
Yeah.
That's where we're at right
Yeah.
Critical.
One of the things that drives me nuts as an atheist is that my polling location is at a church. And I don't necessarily have a problem. I'm not going to burst into flames walking into a church.
After being on this show and having heard your viewpoints on some things, my advice to you is don't test this. I won't burst into flames.
And positively LGBT positive.
In many states, you can still be evicted from housing simply for being gay or transgender. Stand and fight with us.
Oh, and occasionally completely absurd.
Oh, they're shutting us down. They're deplatforming us. I do a pretty good Alex Jones voice. We're turning the frogs gay.
Okay, you're sleeping in a child's room tonight because there's no way you're sleeping next to me. That is disgusting. I'm going to have nightmares.
And now, from Orlando, Florida, your host, Sarah Austin.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to SarahTalk.
Hello. Hello. I'm like, ah.
Listen, just because you're holding the new research assistant doesn't mean you don't have to speak into the microphone.
You know the election results were bad when we had to go buy the whole damn family an emotional support animal.
It's so true, though.
Mm-hmm.
This is, what is this, episode 138.
Mm-hmm.
It's November 10th, 2018. We do have some special guests coming on in just a moment, but first, I want everyone to know Ruth Bader Ginsburg is fine. Becca has wrapped her in bubble wrap, and she's okay.
It's going to be just fine.
Yeah. I mean, she broke 3 ribs, and the next day was up getting around doing her thing.
Right.
She's a boss.
She is. I want to be like her when I'm that age.
Or no, right?
It's not going to happen because, let's face it.
We're already broken.
Right.
Right. I'm not going to make it to that age.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Let alone.
Sadly.
Yeah.
Where is everybody?
I don't know. Did the election just drive everyone into a depressed?
Probably.
Here, let me see if I can add some of them. Oh, I don't know. If they're
No.
not my friends, I can't do it. You could do it, but I can't.
I don't know.
Anyway, so tonight we have Nikki and Brent from the Unapologetix Podcast. Now, our listeners might recall, we actually talked about this podcast back in March. So the first question will be for you, Nikki. When did you decide to change your name from Tiana Dalichov to Nikki? Are you still a middle school teacher here in Florida? And is your podcast still about white supremacy? Oh God! Wait, hold on. I think that's a different show.
Completely different show.
Man. I researched the wrong thing for tonight.
Oh, look at Sarah with her joke.
Man.
That would be some deep undercover work, though.
Right? Oh, could you imagine?
So anyway, of course, I'm just fucking with you. Welcome to the show. But you did name your podcast dangerously similar to Florida middle school teacher Diana Volatich.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very much so.
We covered that, and when we went and researched it, we were like, "Oh wow, she has the same fucking."
It's the same.
Holy shit!
It's out by a letter.
Yeah,
right.
One letter,
One,
and that's it.
and it's just really too eerily similar. It's quite odd.
It's kind of a yin and yang type thing.
Yeah,
like,
no,
we're
absolutely.
the opposite of that show.
The
You know?
universe told us this is what we needed to do to steer her audience to our show.
That's hilarious.
Oh, that's great.
As long as you don't get hate mail for her.
We haven't got anything.
Not yet. No, just a lot of complaints. But,
Not at all.
All right. So, Unapologetic is a white supremacist podcast. Don't listen to that. Unapologetics with an X at the end. That's you guys. Where did that name come from? And what did you hope for it to convey?
At first it was, because I had just become an atheist. So, just in my life, I had been very religious, right? Like I was raised extremely religious. I was heavily indoctrinated. I was homeschooled. And so when I knew a lot of apologetics. Like I knew them like very well, because I'd been doing this my whole life. You know what I mean? And even when I pretty much stopped living like a Christian, left the church, it still was in there, and I kept on defending certain ideas.
Brent would argue you to death about Christian beliefs and how they were just so true, despite standing there drinking beer and having not gone to church in God only knows how long.
Yeah, doing everything. Yeah, just
wrong.
Exactly, just bad stuff.
Living with his girlfriend, all of those things.
Yeah, and all the things that are not Christian. I always do. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
But I'd still be arguing as if I was. But
So the show was kind of. It started as an idea of let's talk about that. Let's break that down.
Mm-hmm.
All of these things that are just floating in your head as knowledge that make you feel like you have the answers to the world, but you really don't.
Right.
Like, because there's so many things over time he realizes he didn't learn because he was too busy being indoctrinated. When you're being indoctrinated, there's not a lot of time for, civics.
I feel you, bro. Man.
Kind of like hot just over that. The show was kind of an opportunity to sort of break some of that down, to get rid of that stuff and start learning the new stuff that actually, matters.
Right. The stuff you can back up with actual data.
Do a lot more about apologetics, but
and we're still trying to figure out how to fit that in without seeming,
like shoehornish.
Yeah, and not like, because we're an atheist show and we certainly talk about lots of stories and issues that come out of being, very Christian conservative and particularly like white Christianity and Black Christianity and those differences. Yeah. But I think we steer away a little bit from the harsh and illogical critiques, of Christianity and the Bible, because sometimes that isn't as impactful, I think, because it's just, the book makes no sense. We can all concede.
Yeah.
It's just bonkers.
But there's a lot of people that don't concede.
I know.
So we're still figuring out a way to put.
They're so bonkers. Yeah. It's hard to figure out how to balance that. Like how to balance trying to tell you that you're bonkers without sounding like an asshole.
Right. Yeah. Yep. Well, and there's a few approaches, right? So in the atheist podcasting community, I think is great.
Definitely.
Everybody just works together. There's like a community feeling, even with people you don't know or you just met, and everybody has their own shtick, right? Like you have some people who are just making fun of the nonsense, reading shit out of the Bible and going, You really believe that animals got their stripes because some fool carved some things into some trees? Are you fucking kidding me right now?
Yeah.
Right? You have some of that. Then you have, your atheist experience types who call in and argue the Kalam cosmological argument with me for the 4,000th time.
I really like that show.
We were literally just listening because I really wanted to show her Tracy.
Yeah,
Tracy and
really cool.
Tracy and Jen are my favorites, I think.
Yeah, I totally agree.
They and I'll tell you the story while we're talking about them. They opened my mind to a new argument on the abortion debate, and that was because obviously I'm like, it's your body, it's your choice. Like there's no reason why the government should and shouldn't all these libertarians be of the government shouldn't tell you mindset, and yet here we are. Small government, my ass. So
exactly. Only on certain things.
Yes, right. Oh, sure. So that was my, initial position was like, well, it's not my body, it's not my business. And then I heard them talking to a caller about listen, this is about consent.
Yeah.
I consented to have sex with you. I did not consent to this pregnancy.
Ooh, I love it.
Wow, that's like literally exactly what I told
Right?
him.
And consenting to sex.
That is excellent. That's an excellent argument.
Because my mom's argument was, why are why is there why do you get charged with the double homicide if you
Which is
hurt
not
someone?
true. It's not true everywhere, but okay.
But I know,
That's like a contentious thing.
But I said it's about consent. And I
Yep.
said it 3 times, and I even remember saying, I'm going to say this one more time. It's all about consent.
That is awesome. I did not read that is a great argument.
Yeah. Yeah. So consent to having sex does not extend to consent to having a pregnancy.
Right.
And then you should be able to say,
yeah,
I didn't consent to this, take it out. Yeah, I thought it was great.
Yeah, that is
definitely.
an excellent argument.
Yeah.
I love it.
She's
I am going to be stealing that.
Yeah. And so, I'll see if I can dig back and find that episode. I'll send you a link.
Please.
So then you have this the street epistemology. So in the atheist experience camp, you have the Matt Dillahunty who just rips people to shreds with his knowledge, and that's a lot of fun and it's very entertaining. But I don't know how effective that always is, and that's when I lean into the street epistemology with Anthony Magnabosco and.
Which I mean, the street epistemology, I enjoy that a lot.
Yeah, and he's very polite. He's kind. He gives people their time to be able to because it's all about the person that he's talking to and not him.
Exactly.
So he allows them to kind of do their own digging, and I really like that.
Which is poignant questions, like the gentle probing, which is weird that people don't do that more often.
Well, you don't. When you're indoctrinated, you don't. It's like if you start to think about any aspect of it, you are sinning.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah, you're taught not to question. Doubt is bad. Faith is good. Never question.
Exactly. So
and
it's almost
if you
making
do,
this little weird fucking super soldier. People.
Yeah, and if you do question, you should come back to me, your faith leader, so that I can give you a jolt of the Jesus again, and you'll be strong in your faith. Yeah, yeah. But street epistemology I love because it people don't, and this goes beyond religion. People don't think about why they believe a thing,
right?
Like what justification they have for the belief. You don't think about it. It's just a belief, So
that's it. Yeah.
Tuesday on this show, I'm recording with Objectively Dan, who is a product of by and large of the Anthony Magnabosco approach.
Oh. Wow.
Anthony met him in at a college campus, and Dan was a student wandering by, and Anthony said, "Hey, do you have 5 minutes for a chat?" And it totally changed his life.
Wow, that's awesome.
And now Dan is hosting a show with the atheist community of Austin, doing Truth Wanted, and inviting people to call in and doing the street epistemology conversation with him. So I can't wait to talk to him this week. It's going to be a lot of fun. But anyway,
so cool.
the point to that is there is room for all of these approaches because they all work differently on different people, and I think our community has done a good job of that.
Yeah,
definitely.
I'd agree.
Definitely.
Okay, so Christian homeschooling. Is that as bad as it sounds to me? Because it sounds really, really awful.
Oh yeah,
sorry.
Yeah, it was.
You're back. Go ahead.
I'll tell you the story that I tell a lot of the people that I talk to about this is I remember one of the tests that I took in homeschooling was that were there dinosaurs on Noah's Ark? And that was one of my actual questions.
Oh my God.
Or I think it was science, honestly. It was talking about.
No, was this like the ACE program or something different?
I think it was a Becca. It was called an Abeka book.
Oh.
We did a lot of that.
Yikes.
Okay.
Hey, now, don't be using my name.
In vain. Yeah.
I want no part in this. No, none.
It was spelled with a K, if that makes you feel better.
That's how I always wanted to spell it, but, now not so much, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, so were there dinosaurs on Noah's Ark? That's the question on everybody's mind. We're all dying to hear.
Yeah.
Is that were there?
That's important. You know, you got to know if dinosaurs. And I said no because, you know, I figured the flood knocked them all out of there, you know, and that killed them. And I got it wrong.
Oh, my God.
You can imagine applying logic to that question.
Because they said in Daniel,
surely the flood took out all the dinosaurs.
Yeah. I mean, come on. That's got to be, you know, that's the logic I was playing around with. But look, the answer actually was, it was false because Daniel apparently sees one playing in the water, like, you know, not so long later or whatever. But I'm like,
God,
how is that science though? That's Bible. That's not science.
About how old were you at this point?
That was when I was about, I want to say like younger than 10.
Oh Lord.
Like, so I was probably like, you know, 8, 9, somewhere in there.
Sure.
You know.
God.
Something like that, yeah. And we actually had a tutor. She hired a tutor to do a lot of stuff because, you know, you get to a point where you can't. You know, she was like, I don't fucking know algebra at this point. You know, it's, so like, I had this tutor, and she was like fucking super. Like, she would punish her kids, and they would literally say thank you afterwards.
Oh my God.
Whoa.
And I heard it happen. She would spank them, and they would say thank you. And that was like, I guess, what they were required to do because. Why the fuck else would you do that?
Yikes.
Breaking news. This just in. Doctors have just come out to say, don't spank your fucking children, by the way.
Again. They've doubled down on it.
Right.
Yeah.
That was insane.
Oh.
Yeah, she wore these like super, it looked like she was wearing like those long dresses, you know, and
Like the Mormon dresses?
Yes. She looked like she was from the movie The Village. I swear to God.
Huh.
You know? I swear to God. But anyway.
So how long were you homeschooled then? Was it all through, like, up to graduating, or did you ever go to public school?
I did 1 year, 1 year in kindergarten at a Christian school, and that was it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Huh. That's crazy.
Yeah.
How long did it take you to catch up? Like after?
I don't feel like I'm caught up.
Okay, me neither. I'm just curious.
Especially, and I remember like thinking, like, you know, when you grow up and you get out, like you start to get older and stuff, and you start to kind of realize that you think everybody's super smart, and then all of a sudden you realize, wait, everybody's just as dumb as I am. You know. And I thought that until I got with the atheist community, and then I was like, oh, never mind. I'm like knocked back. Like,
a lot that I need to still learn, yeah.
Yeah, there's, wow. Education counts.
Yeah. No kidding. Man. So at what point then did you kind of come to terms with your God belief?
Well, it was just honestly, it was just within the last year because, a couple of years. So, about 2 years. Because I, like I said, I was like, I left the church like when I was about 18, and then did my own thing. But I still had these. I was still like what I would call far right. You know what I mean? And
but you would go back. You would go back to the church. It was like an addict that couldn't quit because you kept thinking it was the answer because you've been told for so many years that it was the answer.
Right.
So you would go back for a while and try to be the good Christian, and then it would be too much, and then you would go crazy like a 20-something-year-old without community does. Yeah. And then it was just a revolving door until you finally realized, wait, what am I doing?
And I got stuck in a lot of addiction because, you know, when I was like, fuck it, I gotta get the fuck out of here. I was just like, let me just do stuff that they say I can't do.
Yeah, we do everything now. Just get it all out.
Yeah.
Let me figure it.
Like maybe once I'm done with that, I can go back and then it'll be all okay.
Yeah. And it you know, so I got stuck in that shit, and I kept thinking because I was doing different pain medication stuff. It's like it's very physical. Mm-hmm. So when you start to feel sick, it was like almost like something that drilled in the whole flesh between the, you know what I mean, the flesh between spirit battle type thing even more. Mm-hmm. So I was like, gosh, if I could just get my spirit, you know, to stronger. So then I started going back, you know, trying to go back to church and stuff, you know. And they kept telling me, dude, you just got to stop trying. And I was like, what? And they're like, you know, you got to let Jesus do it, bro.
Oh no,
brother, give me a hug.
Oh my God. This is like I puked in my mouth a little bit. Just then.
Oh my goodness.
Oh.
Like I was like, okay, I can try less. That's no problem.
I'm a young dumb kid. Not trying is the best thing I'm doing right now.
I'll pass on the hug. Will you buy me a beer and a...
But yeah, so then I was just back and forth on that. So and then finally it was just like I just had to come to terms with this isn't real. It's not real. That's it. You know, if something requires you to believe in it to manifest, that's indistinguishable from something that doesn't exist.
Which is, where's that? That's from something I know.
No, it's Tracy.
Yes,
Tracy said that.
Yeah. Which is just a great quote. It is. It's brilliant. It's
so
perfect.
fucking,
everything.
it's poignant. I mean,
you don't have to say anything else. It's everything.
Yeah.
Exactly. You know.
Okay, so Nikki, then, what's your background with religion, and assuming that you grew up in it, how did you find your way out?
So I grew up religious. We were Southern Baptists, but we had this odd relationship with Christianity. It's like everyone just believes in God. There's prayers, if there's big family events, there's prayers before meals. And, we'd always go Christmas and Easter, but we weren't the church going family. It was like we were a member of a church and we went on the important days. And then when like a tragedy would happen, someone would pass or something, my mom would, resolve to go back. And that would last for like a solid 2-3 months. And then we'd go right back to not being people who went to church. But there was never a question of believing. You always believed. But it was odd because we've always also been very liberal, always. My mom's always been pro-choice. She's always been a Democratic voter. And I guess that's kind of the contradiction of being Black and religious. Those two things don't really have to mirror each other.
Right.
And then, over time, I just started saying, I'm agnostic. I just realized I don't actually believe, because if I did, I would do something about it. You would go to church, you would read the Bible. And I remember I was like 15 and I earnestly was like, I'm going to really try. And I read like all of Genesis and I was like, can't fucking do this.
That's the best book.
Can't do this. I would much rather just be watching MTV.
I always enjoyed the Book of Jude because it was like one page. You could get through it really easy.
The thing about bailing at Genesis is like if the book doesn't keep you through the first chapter, I
was lost. And I was like, just stay for me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, right in the beginning, it's talking about the sun wasn't made until the 4th day. Day. And it says it was evening and there was a morning 3 times.
Yep.
What the fuck?
How does that happen? So I've been agnostic, saying that I've been agnostic for a long time. And I think honestly the biggest reason why I said I was agnostic was because my idea of an atheist was, Richard Dawkins and Sam Harris, and I'm not big fans of these people.
Yep.
So
they are troublesome in ways.
Of course, meeting like asshole atheists along the way that you're just like, I am not like you. But I've always acknowledged that religion as an institution is a destructive fucking force, and believe in, the separation of church and state wholeheartedly. And I think with Brent, finally coming out, I guess, and dealing with, accepting that you don't believe, I realized that I'm that same person, because as a feminist, I get really fucking annoyed when women are like, well, I'm not a feminist, I like to bake. And it's like,
oh my God. You can like to bake and still be a feminist. Saying.
It is totally fine. I like to let my man feel powerful. And I was like, oh my God, what are you talking about? None of this matters. Right. So I realized that it was kind of bullshit for me to not say that I'm an atheist just because there happened to be some asshole atheists. Yeah. So that's how that came to me.
We're trying to promote the positive image.
Exactly. That we're atheists, but not necessarily racist.
I have to believe that there are far less asshole atheists than there are child molester priests.
Oh yeah.
The numbers are clear.
For sure.
So I think you're not in Horrible company.
Oh God.
Exactly.
But
Yeah, and I think too that was another thing too that surprised me is, you know, watching Brent sort of get more and more into the community and seeing the response to people with helping to promote our show and giving us so much advice for free. And just being so open, and it's been really heartening because I'm like, oh, there's this whole world that exists that's really supportive, because, you know, sometimes you just don't see that in the rock stars who, you know, purport to be the face of intellectual atheism.
Yeah.
Especially when they're doing like the bell curve shit and all that, you know. It's like, that's just when you're like, okay, fuck you. I'm done.
So I had a question about the roots that run very deep towards religion in the Black community. And I posted a probably offensive picture in our listener, I think it was in the listener group, that in the top panel is a picture of a white man whipping a slave that says, "Jesus loves you, now you say it." And then the bottom panel is some Black people in church with their arms up, praise Jesus 300 years later.
Yes, that's problematic, Sarah.
So talk to me about that, because I have I want to learn. I have a hard time understanding that relationship with the Black community and a religion that was in very much part forced upon them. Yeah.
So I think the biggest issue, I mean, not to say that nothing about that is untrue, right? Like, the Black church today isn't some sort of scion of morality either. It has its own issues with, you know, misogyny and conservatism for no fucking reason, and doing, you know, just completely immoral things all the time. But I think the difference is we have over time, because what it does is it takes away our agency and how we've created our own relationship to Christianity, right? Because it did start out as being forced upon us, but over time we have taken that same Bible and sort of used it and taken the religion and used it to create our own sort of empowerment and power and strength. Because, you know, we can't divorce the fact that the church has been really powerful in civil rights battles and Jim Crow issues, like so many things. The church as a power structure has been able to bring Black people together and get shit done.
Yep.
And so when you post something like that, it makes it seem like Black people are still sort of marching along with white supremacy and sort of, you know, still holding that banner, when it's not that black and white. It's actually more, we've taken something, we've changed it and used it for our own purposes and our own strength. But that doesn't take away from the fact that it still is very much problematic.
Sure.
And in some ways, it does still support white supremacy and, you know, misogyny and all these other, and definitely homophobia and definitely transphobia and definitely all these other bad fucking things. But that's, you know, that's a separate issue. Right.
Yeah. No, that makes sense, right? In a lot of ways, the church was the community, was the only thing that got folks through those tough times.
Like during the civil rights, like the biggest people who were the financial supporters and also the people who could be out in front in the movement were pastors.
Yeah.
They were train porters and they were funeral home owners, because they had their own independent sense of self. Like they weren't going to lose their jobs. Because the train porters had really, really strong unions, and pastors obviously had their own power base within their churches, and then funeral directors own their own, you know, funeral homes, and Black people are going to die. Like that's guaranteed money.
Yeah.
White funeral homes were not going to take Black people. So they were able to use that independence to get us out of where we were at that time. So that's kind of, you know, it's complicated, but it's important to talk about how there's just a whole way that church was used that it's so different from the way it was used during slavery, I guess.
Right. It was used against you, and then you took it back in a lot of ways. Yeah. That makes sense. Now, but there is also a component of that where the deeply rooted part of that story, which is to be a Black non-believer, in America is a pretty rare thing.
Yes.
So how has that worked out for you?
I think part of the reason why it's so rare is because we have a freedom that doesn't exist in white evangelical churches.
Right.
So I had the freedom to still be liberal, to be, queer, to be, pro-choice and all of these things while also having a relationship to God. Because when you go to Black churches, certain Black churches definitely do the sermons on, homophobia and all this stuff. But for the most part, you don't get very many of those kinds of sermons in churches, in Black churches, because there's so many other things to fucking talk about. There's so many other struggles that's unless it's purposely a preacher trying to be that way, that's not necessarily a sermon that you're going to get quite often. And whereas in your situation, that was not a thing. The need to be politically conservative was it was necessary to be.
Well, they almost
religious.
push it on you at the white evangelical. They push their political agenda. They do it from the pulpit.
Exactly.
I remember them doing that quite a bit.
So I think part of the reason why it's rare for Black folks is because we don't have to make so many choices, to whether to be religious and go to church or be pro-choice or be, someone who votes Democrat or whatever. But I think another thing too is it's such a cultural thing too. Yeah. A lot of the songs you sing in church, Brent, are new age religious songs.
When I lift your name on high.
Exactly. Or new Christian music, right? Where it's that new thing. And for when I go to a Black church, it's a connection to the past. Right. And it's a part of a cultural experience of going to church, listening to the choir, seeing the older Black ladies with their hats on. It's a whole, my mom, waking up early and turning on, church music and making cheese grits and, that whole thing of it is such a part of what we know. Because, let's be honest, we had to create our own culture.
Right.
From scratch.
Yeah, right.
Free of white supremacy.
Wow.
And
you're right.
Yeah.
That was going to be hard to do. So something that maybe isn't very important, when you're a white person going to church, becomes super important for a Black person going to church because it's about a community and a culture that you were able to mold outside of white hands. But it really isn't, right? It's still there. But it still feels like
you still
100% our own.
You had the most freedom within that, and to be able to use your hands to make your own, and you had the freedom to do that.
Exactly. So it's rare,
cool.
And it's interesting because I haven't really talked to my family about it yet, and it's crazy because we don't talk about it. No one talks about it. No one talks about church. No one talks about shit. We get together and we drink liquor, eat crabs, and play cards.
Nice. That's how it should be.
Well, that was my next question. Was you're talking about this deep root, this deeply connected community and your friends and your family, and then what it's like when you walk away from that in a way. But if that conversation's not happening, then you don't have to deal with that yet, I guess.
Exactly. Right. And that's the thing. I mean, it's such a trope too about knowing, in Black churches, we know so many of our choir directors are gay. It's so clearly obvious.
Right.
But no one talks about it. We know that they're gay. We know who their partners are. We say that's their roommate, right? And no one talks about it. It's just not a thing. Because I think it's a combination of, one, I think Black people are raised different. I won't say all Black people, but I know in my household, I was very much raised to question why I think I get to have an opinion on shit. And why do you think that you get to decide what other people get to whatever? So that was always something my mom was drilling home, that there's only so many things you get to control.
That's why you always say, who the fuck are you? Who the fuck are you? And I'm saying, I have an opinion about something.
That was when Brent was a Christian, when he was super into his Christianity, that was one of our main comebacks and arguments, where he just was so sure about things. And I'm like, okay, you can be 100% sure about something, but who the fuck are you compared to another person and how they want to
You can be 100%
sure. That was your main argument. Who the fuck are you?
You can be.
And I didn't have a good answer.
You can be 100% sure and 100% wrong.
Exactly. You know,
Exactly.
You're right. That's
And you can also be 100% right, and somebody else decides to do the wrong thing, and that's fine.
Yeah.
Right.
That's
Yep.
fine.
Right.
Like
Yeah,
it is
it's
what it
none-
is.
it's none of your
You
business.
can't. You
Exactly.
cannot.
It's not my place to have a judgment
Yeah.
on any of that. You know, that was the point. You know?
But I think it's that simultaneous like questioning how you don't have the power to control someone else's happiness,
Right.
and also realizing that our community is too goddamn small. to be picking
Right.
and choosing. Like we need all of us together
Mm.
in this. Like we need that.
Yeah.
So
You
Kind of
know,
where we're at with the atheist community. We need to get together and do this shit,
dude,
man.
I'm telling you, that's something I'm working on here. You know, it's funny because like when I kind of got out of religion, in my apathetic, you know, late teens, early 20s or whatever it was, my grandmother would say to me, basically every time I saw her, "Now, I just wish you'd come back to church. I just wish you'd come back," because I wasn't going anymore, you know.
Right.
I went for a while and kind of went through the motions, and I liked the singing because music was always a thing that I did, and
Yeah.
and I could get into that, but I don't know. I think I had never really believed, even tricked myself into believing or thinking that I believed, and then when I finally kind of gave that up, I just didn't go back, but boy did I get a lot of "I wish you'd come back to church."
like it's gonna magically solve what?
Yeah. Right.
Just going back there, it does something. It's like, you know.
And that's one of the things we talk about a lot on our show is the fact that so much of it is fake community. It's not real.
It's not right.
It's all built on like she doesn't want you to go back to church because she actually thinks that it's useful. It just suits her.
Yeah.
It makes her feel better about you. Like
Because he's
you're
right.
fine because you go to church, even though you could be completely dying inside.
Yeah.
But you're going to church, so everything must be fine.
Yeah.
And that sort of showing up and not being your whole self is just, it's useless. It's useless.
It's a weird thing, but it's the same phenomenon with like a lot of like crackheads. Like I don't know if you know any crackheads, but
Please
they
school us.
I listen.
Just you.
You're always trying to get other people to smoke crack. Even if you don't want to smoke crack, they're trying to tell you how awesome it is so that you do it too, because they want to feel right. They want to feel like they are right about this being a good thing that they're doing. And so they're constantly trying to get people around them to do it. I know it's so weird.
That is strange.
But it is the same thing, same phenomenon. And it's like people want to feel like they're right, man.
Yeah.
And that's, you know.
Well, you look at the Facebook algorithms, right? We're all surrounding ourselves with people who agree with us. Just now electronically in the background, that's happening for us.
Right.
Create your own echo chamber with a touch of a finger.
Yeah, right.
Exactly. And that can be okay as long as you're in a echo chamber where you're right.
If you're in this echo chamber.
Yeah.
Make it
Sure.
You need evidence. You gotta figure it out.
We're gonna let Brent do that.
You gotta
There you
think.
go.
Figure that out.
But they don't think. That's the problem.
Well, yeah.
They don't want to. I remember not wanting to look things up. I remember being afraid and being like, you know what? I can look this up later. You know, because I didn't want to be wrong. You know, I wanted to stay and thinking these racist things about people. I wanted to stay thinking these horrible, just terrible things. You know what I mean? Like, it just, because I know if I figured out the information, then I might be wrong. You know, and then and my entire worldview would come crumbling down if I was wrong. And so I didn't want to look it up. I didn't want to know. I just wanted to believe in what I believed in.
Yep.
So Sarah, what would you say when she said, "I just wish you would go back to church"?
I just dodged. You know, I'll think about it. Oh, maybe I'll go. You know,
it's your grandmother. You got to appease her somehow.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I have such a terrible memory anyway, thanks to my ADD and my old age. But I there is a fragment of a memory of at one point saying something like, you know, I'm not interested in that. I don't want to go. But
yeah. Wow. That's hard.
Maybe once. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so Well, one final question in maybe this category. We here in the progressive state of Florida.
Oh yeah.
Right, yeah.
God.
So progressive.
So blue.
So you all are an interracial couple.
We are.
How has that played out for you here in this bastion of progressiveness? Or do people still give interracial couples shit, or we've gotten over that? Because it's like the #1 search term for most of the South on
Exactly,
Pornhub.
which is so telling.
Yeah.
So we get a lot of stares. We
Yeah.
get a lot of just open. It's funny. We get from white people definitely. We get just a lot of just staring.
Yeah.
And it's just we don't know. I mean, we obviously know we're weird odd couple,
Yeah, we
right?
look
So I'm
odd.
like
I mean,
I'm a fat lady. Brent's a skinny white guy. He's a tall white guy, and like we, and I'm black, and it's just everything about us just makes no sense whatsoever. So we get it, right? We forgive folks a little for staring because it's weird saying Peter's from Florida, for God's sake. You know what I mean? Like it's not everywhere. So I think we get just a lot of stares. We do get a lot of like smiles and approving like nods from black people, which is always
black people are cool.
lovely.
It's weird. It's...
So yeah, it's odd. We haven't gotten any like outright hostility, I don't think.
Well, no, I mean just at that one guy that one time at the like.
Oh yeah,
Just that one guy.
there was
but
like,
he was like
someone who was just basically like
he's a Nazi.
making it clear that he was a Nazi.
Oh.
So
Whoa.
That's very scary to me, but
like basically like letting Brent know like I'm not chill with this. So
yeah.
that was I forgot all about that.
Yeah,
Did you say that?
Yeah, I know. What happened was this guy, like it's a place I go to regularly, and this guy that I see there, like he always wears long sleeves inappropriately because it's fucking Florida. So I always thought that was odd, because it's 95 fucking degree weather and this dude's wearing long sleeves. And the one time I was talking to my friend and he comes up to me, he looks me straight in the eye, he's like, "Hey man, look at me. No, look me in the eyes. All right." And then he rolls up his sleeve. He's like, "See that?" And it was a swastika on his arm.
Oh my God.
You're cool, but I just want you to know that's there.
Yeah. It was weird. It was quite weird. Yeah. So
That's when you go in and you say, "And who the fuck are you?"
Yeah. Well, I was just like, oh God, I don't want fucking Nikki
Right.
to
No. Well, yeah. Obviously.
I'm scared for safety now.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, but that's the thing. We're never. It's Florida. Like I mean, so for example, we just had to drive to Savannah and back a few months ago. Yeah. And all of a sudden, the reality of us really came clear because the drive from here to say Savannah is all back roads. Yeah. So it's basically just driving through, tiny Florida towns. And we were driving back at night, and it's just, shacks and woods and 2-lane highways. Terrifying.
Don't run out of gas. Don't run out of gas. Don't run out of gas.
We stopped at a few places on the way home. And I remember we stopped somewhere in North Florida to get gas or something. And definitely got way more stairs. Way more stairs.
Oh, man.
And then we stopped a little further down in Ocala and went to like a Wendy's. And it was interesting because we, like, as soon as we got out of the car, people were like in the Wendy's, like, just staring at us.
Yeah,
and it's so odd. And it's like, it's such a testament to how strong segregation is. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's because I used to live in DC and it was obviously never like this. Like interracial couples were everywhere all the time. And it's just like, it's so amazing to me how it's just still accepted here that we all should be living apart, because what it is. It's people are asking 1,000 questions of how the fuck do they meet? Yeah. Like, where does that even happen?
Yeah.
Because you don't really have interactions with each other very much.
No, when you think about the place I grew up, a small town of 1,400 people in the middle of cornfield, Illinois, it was white people as far as the eye could see.
Yeah.
And where there weren't, you locked your doors. Like that was the mentality of where I came from. And so sure, to see that the first time or two was a shock, but Like, come on, get over it, you know?
You would think, right? You would think, but it's Florida.
Well, and I think too, like, you know, when we're out, which doesn't happen very often, but when we're out together, more so than when I'm out by myself, I am more conscious of the people around us and what their perceptions might be based on their facial expressions and things like that. Like I'm thinking about, like, okay, who's looking at the crazy trans person in the room?
Right.
And you know, what I think that is too is
it's gonna be hard.
It's interesting because when we're alone, Sarah, because, you know, I'm a flat Black lady, so I'm definitely seen as, you know, the least desirable. Like, why would that person ever be with anybody? And if they are with anybody, they should certainly be with a Black person. So if that is outside of that expectation, it's this curiosity about, well, maybe this person is of value. That's what I feel like they're saying. Like, how does that happen? How does that person seemingly have a normal relationship with another human? Because we're not human. Like, we're not meant to be seen as human. We're meant to be seen as oddities, as, you know what I mean, as outside of the norm. So seeing that normal picture of someone who is fat and Black and sexual and in love with someone who is a normie, I guess, it just is, it's jarring for people because it's like that cognitive dissonance between, like, that, those two things are not supposed to happen.
Yeah. So interesting.
I just don't understand it, honestly, because I find Nikki the most attractive.
And tons of people do, but that's not something that you see on TV. I mean,
I've never been
like, fucking Rebel Wilson is making a fucking movie about being a plus size person who's desired, and somehow it's like news.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Like a deal.
Yeah. And so to kind of bring it all back home, all of these sort of topics, Unapologetix for you guys has kind of become an extension of this journey that you're on together. Was that part of the initial impetus to do a show, is, you know, to just kind of talk things out real time and help you guys figure things out and just explore?
Definitely. We would have these, you know, we would sit and have these long conversations where we would be breaking things down about, you know, him breaking down all of this indoctrination over the years and me trying to figure out how to, you know, because I fell in love with Brent for so many reasons, and I had not realized how deep it had been because you did such a good job of hiding it. Yeah. And so when we were like having this conversation and breaking it down, we were like, you know, this would be a really good idea for a show because there has to be more people experiencing this, like in their 30s, finally realizing, holy shit, I know nothing.
Right.
Yeah.
But I want to learn, and I want to be a person who can kind of make up for those years and years and years of being an asshole to people who never deserved it.
Yeah.
And so that show is kind of that labor of him trying to atone and learn, and me trying to figure out how to, what's the best word? Like how to build, you know, in a relationship with someone who's sort of breaking those things down. When you haven't experienced that before. Because I had never experienced someone so religious.
Yeah. So
you know, that was surprising to me. I just never had known anyone so religious.
Well, it makes it's when you believe a bunch of things that aren't real, when you think they're real, it really fucks up your mind with a lot of different things. Like it bleeds into everything.
Just your thinking, like how you just so quickly will go to like thinking the easiest thing. Right. It's like, okay, well that's easy, but if you imagine it a little bit more, what can we think? Like what can we get to? And so that process of like building that, I think.
Yeah, and again, like if I even thought differently than what I was indoctrinated with, it was a sin.
Yeah.
You know, so it was like it was really hard to get out of just being able to think things. Mm-hmm. Like questioning, like basically, it's, you know, just questioning. Well, how does that make sense? That doesn't make sense. Why would God do that? Why would that's a sin.
Yeah.
You know, you can't think that way. So just having those gates on your mind there that you can't pass them, is damaging. to the rest of everything you do, and also thinking that you're a piece of shit and because you were born, and so you were born into sin, so you're just a horrible piece of shit.
Why would you teach children that?
What?
Yes.
That's
What a
right?
terrible thing.
Yeah,
Oh,
and I always thought that. I always thought that I was like worthless, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, I had other things happen in my past that made me think that. But
in addition to the show being about that and talking through those things through like topical news stories, we also do highlight videos and stories of Christians and Republicans doing bad shit.
Yeah.
And
cognitive dissonance stuff sometimes.
And then we also have sort of a nerd section because we both are just culture whores. But we wanted to shoehorn it in, and so we did.
Yeah.
We were like, we're just gonna take 10-15 minutes and we're gonna talk about we're just gonna do it. And you can turn it off, you can fast forward, we're gonna pop some cans.
Shut it off. It's the last part of the show, god damn it.
We just wanted to do it, so we did it. So it's definitely a multivariate show.
Yeah, definitely.
It's fun.
It's all over the place.
Well, I've listened, I enjoy it.
That's awesome.
And as you know, we've chatted before. If there's anything I can do to help you out, I am all game for that.
Thank you, Sarah. You already helped so much. We appreciate it.
Seriously.
Well, again, like I think, and I really feel this in the atheist podcasting community. I feel that siblinghood helpfulness. Funny story, just complete sidebar. I got an email from somebody. Let's see if I can find it here. So I have and I have a video on our YouTube of this. But I had to do a ton of research to figure out how to hook up our cell phone into the system to be able to take calls.
Oh, wow.
And it requires a setup, the wiring process called mix minus that allows you to send the microphone audio back to the phone and not create a feedback loop.
Right. Oh, okay.
So I did a ton of research. I figured out, I looked at all these different devices and different ways to do it. And then I bought it and I plugged it in and I moved the plugs there. I've just fiddled with it until I figured it out. And then I figured it out and I made a video and I put it on YouTube. And I said at the end of that video, hope this helps. If you have any questions, feel free to email me. So this guy emails me. I've been trying to figure out how to do this mix minus thing and failed miserably. This is the kind of mixer I have. Do you mind helping me out with this? Sure, no problem, man, whatever. So I drew up a little wiring diagram for him, sent it back. It worked. So there's that. I clicked on the link in his signature on the email, and it's a helping you achieve God's best for your marriage.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
Relationship real talk. And so
Oh, fuck.
but you know what? No, I'm fine with that because here's what might happen, right? Here's what might happen. I don't know if this guy knows me from anybody other than seeing that one snapshot video. But if any further research, if he clicks on the link in my signature, he's going to find out that I run a progressive, liberal, atheist talk show, like,
Right.
and it's the same idea of like, we'll talk about Seth here in a minute, but I've heard Seth Andrews talk about like, one of the best ways to normalize atheism to an audience is in your own community, and when your neighbor, asks to borrow the ladder, or can you help me put the fence up, or whatever it is, and you've gotten to know each other, and then your neighbor says, why don't you come to church with us on Sunday? And you go, oh, actually, I appreciate the offer, thank you, but no, I'm an atheist. Then there's this cognitive dissonance that happens in their brain, like, what the hell? I thought this person they were so nice, they lent me their tools, they helped me do this, they're such a great person, they're an atheist.
Right.
But that normalizes it for them, right? They're like, okay, well, if this person they have to work through that cognitive dissonance in their brain. And so, no, I'm not beyond helping somebody who spreads the gospel of Jesus or whatever. I'll help anybody, whatever.
Yeah, but yeah, exactly. You're helping people. Helping people.
Yeah, exactly. That's what humanism's all about, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We'll plug this again before the end of the show, but at this point, where can people find the Unapologetix podcast and connect with you all on the social media and stuff?
So we're on Stitcher and we're on SoundCloud right now. Unapologetics. You can email
spelled with
us.
an X.
Yes.
Unapologetics. Spelled with an X. That's important.
And yes, please don't.
Yeah, don't go to the white supremacist one.
And then our email is unapologetics with an X 666@gmail.com.
Yeah. And then you can follow me. I'm on Facebook as Brent Lee.
Yes.
That's BRENTLEE.
I don't have any social media because I wish to remain sane. Brent tells me all the stories.
That is a very wise decision, girl.
Well, that's so smart.
Anything you want to say to her, you can say to me. God damn it!
Oh, Jesus. Hey, who are you?
Yeah. No, who the fuck are you?
Oh, who the fuck are you?
Yes. We need to have shirts made.
Oh, yes, that would be great.
That would
You
be
should do
great.
that, yeah.
Yes.
All right, so let's do this. Let's take a quick break, in just a couple minutes here. When we come back, you guys are good to go for a little while longer, right?
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
Cool. When we come back, I have some news stories that I would like to dig into. There's some political stuff going on. I want to talk about a really great thing that an atheist is doing for the queer community. And there's good news after the election. I want to bring us back up after that.
Yeah, please.
After that night. So we'll do that.
Florida still sucks, but
Florida still sucks. We'll talk about what's going on in Florida and how that's going to work out. Maybe if the lawsuits don't stop it, and if my music plays. There it is. So we'll do all of that when we come back with our special guests, Brent and Nikki from the Unapologetix Podcast. We'll be back after this. You're listening to SarahTalk.
In today's health-conscious society, you have many beverage choices. But do you know what's in all of them? So much sugar, sodium, and things you can't even pronounce. Dihydrogen monoxide. What's that? Sometimes you wish you just had a simple, more elegant solution for your beverage needs. Introducing H2O, the first ever chemical-free thirst quencher. H2O is simple, simply composed of 3 portions of 2 elements, hydrogen and oxygen. H2O means chemical-free, unlike water, which is filled with all sorts of shit. When we tested H2O, we found traces of no other elements. So pure, the bottle may as well be fucking empty, with all the same nutritional content as a breath of cool mountain air. First widely featured on Goop.com, actress Gwyneth Paltrow revealed that she exclusively uses H2O for her vaginal steaming process. After all, why use water when you can steam it with H2O? So now we invite you to run out to your local garden hose and drink that shit. Remember, it's not water, it's H2O.
H2O bottled by Flint Bottling Company in Flint, Michigan. Product not actually endorsed by Goop or Gwyneth Paltrow. Please do not use H2O for vaginal steaming, or better yet, please do not steam your vagina. H2O is actually just water. Water is a set of molecular compounds. It's a chemical. Everything is a chemical.
Hello, my friends. This is Sister Mary Atheist of the Church of Religious Avoidance down here in Bumblefuck, Alabama. Now, my friends, my people, my brothers and sisters, do you feel lost? Do you feel that swelling urge to be a part of something better? Well, let the word of SarahTalk help you. If you've never known the word SarahTalk, learn it, live it, love it. Can I get an amen? No? Good, 'cause we don't do that shit around here. My friends, we must all remember that the good word of SarahTalk doesn't happen for free. So get yourself over to patreon.com/SarahTalk and help us spread the word. Plant that seed and help it grow into secular, peer-reviewed empirical evidence for the good of all. In the name of the Sarah, the Becca, and the Science-Based Podcast, amen, hallelujah, and holy shit.
Hey, this is Morgan Stevenson tuning in from Kalamazoo, Michigan at the SarahTalk Podcast.
Welcome back to SarahTalk. I'm Sarah Austin in the studio with my lovely wife Becca.
Heyo.
Our mascot dog Gizmo is in bed now.
Sleepy puppy.
But hey, if you missed Gizmo, you should be watching us on the Facebook live stream every Saturday night at 8 p.m.
Yeah.
Look, see what you're missing out on?
Mm-hmm.
And we're joined tonight by Nikki and Brent from the Unapologetix Podcast. Now, before we get into like the post-election breakdown, because I really want to talk about some good news that's out there. Let's talk about a couple of news stories. Did you guys see Jim Acosta battling with Trump and then getting his White House access revoked?
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Press Secretary Sarah Smoky Eyes Huckabee Sanders says they have suspended Acosta's hard pass until further notice. This all started when Jim finally had enough of Trump's bullshit and pushed back at a presser. Let's listen to a little bit of that. This is CNN's chief White House correspondent challenging Trump the day after the midterms.
One of the statements that you made in the tail end of the campaign in the midterms. That
here we go.
That, well, if you don't mind, Mr. President, that this caravan was an invasion. As you know, Mr. President,
I consider it to be an invasion.
As you know, Mr. President, the caravan was not an invasion. It's a group of migrants moving up from Central America towards the border with the U.S.
Thank you for telling me that.
And why did you characterize it as such?
Because I consider it an invasion. You and I have a difference of opinion.
But do you think that you demonized immigrants in this election
to try to keep... I want them to come into the country, but they have to come in legally. You know, they have to come in, Jim, through a process. I want it to be a process, and I want people to come in, and we need the people.
Your campaign.
Whoa! We need the people? Suddenly now he wants people to come in?
I don't think he meant that.
No. No, I don't think he means most of what he says.
I don't think he knows what he says most of the time. So.
Wait, you know why we need the people, don't you? Because we have hundreds of companies moving in. We need the people.
Whoa! You just said they're turking our gerbs. Now you said we need them to come here because we have gerbs to fill.
But he also said that there was like ISIS and...
Right.
And Muslims
predators
and Taliban and who all.
God. And so it's okay for them to come in as guest workers, but it's not okay for them to seek asylum?
Right.
What the fuck is the difference?
That doesn't make any sense.
Okay.
Why would he say that? That's so weird.
Yep.
He's deflecting. That's why. Because what he did was racist and it demonized immigrants.
Like,
yes.
Oh shit. Okay. Yeah, no, we want these guys.
Now the midterms are over. Now it's this.
Yeah, right. That's what I think it was. I think it was just a dog whistle, flag waving, pre-midterm, try to get his base scared for the sneaky terrorists and rapists that are coming from the South.
Yeah, and it
they're
worked
marching for you.
Yeah, it did.
Data shows that the number one issue for Republican voters was immigration.
Yeah,
which is bananas.
Yep.
The guy that I got in an argument with about the bathroom thing, he said you got in an argument with me about that.
Yeah.
It's like,
oh, really?
Like no reason. These are the things that are important to us this week.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's about controlling the news cycle in a lot of ways. Regardless of what the topic is, it's got to be point that camera back over at me.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Like he's perfectly blitzkrieging us with insanity so that mainstream media doesn't have time to report. Actually, the Democrats did really well.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, actually, the story is they're underperforming.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's listen to a little bit more.
Campaign had an ad showing migrants climbing over walls and so on.
That's true. But they weren't actors.
They're not going to be doing that.
They weren't actors. Well, no, it's true. Do you think they were actors? They weren't actors. They didn't come from Hollywood. These were people. This was an actual it happened a few days ago. And
they're hundreds of miles away, though. They're hundreds and hundreds of miles away. That's not an invasion.
Honestly, I think you should let me run the country. You run CNN.
All right.
And if you did it well, your ratings would be much better.
If I may ask one other question, Mr. President, if I may ask
now,
another question.
Now, at this point, the intern girl runs up to Jim Acosta, preparing to take the microphone out of his hand. All right.
Are you worried?
That's enough. That's enough.
Mr. President, I was going to ask one of the other folks.
That's enough.
Pardon me, ma'am. Mr. President.
That's enough.
Mr. President, I had one other question, if I may.
He's holding the microphone in his hand.
Yeah.
And she reaches her hand across him to grab at the microphone, and he moves his hand down into kind of the crook of her elbow, and then he says, "Excuse me, ma'am."
Exactly.
Yeah, he's polite.
Which is the story that everyone missed. And then Smokey Eyes sends out a doctored video from InfoWars that makes it look like Acosta hit this intern in the arm while she was basically just trying to take the mic away from him. Sanders said in a statement, President Trump believes in a free press and expects and welcomes tough questions of him and his administration. We will, however, never tolerate a reporter placing his hands on a young woman just trying to do her job as a White House intern. This conduct is absolutely unacceptable. It is also completely disrespectful to the reporter's colleagues not to allow them an opportunity to ask a question. Now, suddenly, you're concerned about a man placing his hands on a woman when we were just defending Brett I Like Beer Kavanaugh.
I was gonna say, like, what? So who started the Me Too movement?
He touched the crook of her elbow. He didn't grab her by the pussy, so that's what he did wrong.
Or Rob Porter. I guess she should be your wife that you're punching in the eye.
Yeah, right.
Right. That's okay.
God.
Oh my.
All right, let's listen to just a little last bit of this and then call
I ask on the Russia investigation, are you concerned that you may have
I'm not concerned about anything with
you
the
may have
Russian
indictments coming
investigation
down?
because it's a hoax.
Are you-
That's enough. Put down the mic.
Mr. President, are you worried about indictments coming down in this investigation?
Mr. President.
I'll tell you what, CNN should be ashamed of itself having you working for them. You are a rude, terrible person. You shouldn't be working for CNN. Go ahead.
I think that's unfair.
You're a very rude person. The way you treat Sarah Huckabee is horrible. And the way you treat other people are horrible. You shouldn't treat people that way. Go ahead. Go ahead, Peter. Go ahead.
In Jim's defense, I've traveled with him and watched him. He's a diligent reporter who busts his
Well, I'm
butt
not a
like the
big
rest
fan
of
of
us.
yours either, so
I understand.
to be honest.
So let me ask you a question if I can.
So then another reporter tries to stand up for Jim Acosta.
Have 50 years either.
Have we ever seen a president treat the press like this?
Never. He's so petty. He's so petty. He just is. I don't understand. Like every way you could possibly handle a situation, he chooses the wrong way.
Yeah.
And not just the slightly wrong way, but the totally that you shouldn't do that wrong way.
Yes,
wrong way.
Far left. You're like, where are you? You're like in a fucking plane. Where are you? We're over here. It's just and the idea that he thinks. And what bothers me so much about it is I watch that and I'm disgusted and I'm like, what is going on? And then his base watches that and they're like, yeah, let's give it to him.
Right?
And what are you raising your kids to be? Murderers?
Right? Big bully.
I knew that CNN was full of shit.
You and
the
the country voice. This is like
this motherfucker trying to come in here and tell the president how to answer
I
questions.
do apologize.
It's so frustrating to me. A couple of things on the press that whenever I see a news article and I think to myself, don't read the comments, and then I do, because I am a sadist, I guess. There's always someone arguing back and forth about whatever the thing is, immigration, whatever. Trump was a dick to the press. Name a topic, and there's always someone that's like, actually, that's not factually true. Here, let me show you the evidence. CNN.com/some URL. And invariably the response is, "Oh, CNN, that's not a reliable news source." That is I think one of the biggest damages that Trump has done to this nation.
Ooh.
Wow.
The power blows.
Hey, all right, are you there?
All right. Yeah.
Okay. Now, no, Brent, I was not raptured. That was really funny, by the way.
That was hilarious. It's great.
You're this fear for me. Okay.
My theory was that Donald Trump must have had his people watching our show and they shut us down because we were bad talking to him.
Yeah. But hey, it's live TV, radio. What do you expect? So what the hell were we talking about? How
CNN is
unprecedented
a bad source of news.
Well,
and,
just how unprecedented this relationship between the president and the press is. I guess I think that's
Definitely.
That's kind of where we were.
And him getting angry at the press, and I feel like there's only that's a similarity between most of the dictators in the world. Like, they usually typically don't like the press. I mean, I don't know what it is.
And I feel like he doesn't understand their role. Like, Fox News is not news.
No.
And the idea that you think the media is there to just prop up your agenda is absurd.
Right? Because I'm like, do they even claim that they're news?
I mean, didn't he remember being asked by the media to talk about President Barack Obama not being a citizen? Like,
Right.
they are not
Right.
here for you.
No.
They're doing their own shit. They're asking their own questions, and they're messy. They like drama.
Yeah.
So the idea that you think you're not going to get asked any hard questions is absurd to me. You know how this works.
Yeah, absolutely.
But to have Huckabee Sanders, whatever her stupid smoky eye name is, come out and say that he expects to be asked hard questions, whatever
No,
that
he doesn't.
But his own people say that when he clearly contradicts that at every turn.
Yeah.
You could ask him what time it was, and he'd have a persecution complex.
There was another clip that I was looking for that I wanted to play in this conversation, and I just could not find it. But it was Trump was speaking at a press gaggle like this, saying the black support for the Donald Trump is so high, it's like 67% or whatever it was. And one of the reporters, who wasn't even not asking, that was a different reporter, was like, "Actually, sir, it's 6.9% from the back," or what? I was like, "Oh my God, that's so good! Call him out when he lies."
Yes, because it is a lie. It is
Yes.
a lie. It is not like he's misremembering.
No.
It's not that he believes something that is untrue. It is that he is a liar.
Mm-hmm.
That's the
Clear
thing.
and simple.
And it almost makes me afraid. Like, did everybody before the fucking internet was born lie?
It is out here,
right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, was Ronald Reagan just
definitely
lying? It'll trickle down to you guys. I swear, it's actually already trickled down to these farmers out here, and they are very happy. I promise.
All lies.
Don't try to look that up. Anyway, because there's no internet.
Right. Well, back in if Lincoln actually did tell a lie, it took 3 weeks for it to ever get communicated across the country, and by that point, it didn't matter.
Exactly. We missed that opportunity. It's gone.
Yeah,
it's just back now.
Yeah, the news cycle was so different.
That's like George Washington. He told everybody that cherry tree story.
You're right.
Who's anybody but him? No, I can't even lie, dude. Let me tell you a story, bro. Here's how much I can't lie. Okay.
Okay, so the next story I want to talk about, and I don't know if you guys saw this. This was really great, and I think it got lost in the shuffle of the election season. Paul Dorr, a devout Christian activist in Iowa, posted this 27-minute long video reading this garbage post from his blog, as if anyone cares about his blog. Look, blogs are so 2004.
Okay.
Anyway, so at the end of this video, he burns 4 books. He's got a garbage barrel with burning flames fired, and he dumps these 4 books in. 2 Boys Kissing by David Levithan, This Day in June by Gail E. Pittman. I'm telling you these so you can go buy them. Morris.
Yeah, I can learn a lot.
Yeah. Morris Micklewhite and the Tangerine Dress by Christine Baldacchino. And Families by Max and Suzanne Long. Now, these books all have three things in common. They're all LGBTQ themed books. They were all burned by this asshole on this video in the live stream. And they were all checked out from his local library.
Oh, God. Wow.
Now, the librarian says that these books cost about $60. Then an awesome thing happened. Justin Scott, whom I'm trying to get on the show to talk about this, he is a member and the state director of the American Atheist Iowa chapter, launched a Facebook fundraiser that, as of this morning, had raised over $2,000 to not only replace the $60 worth of books the guy destroyed, but, according to Justin, quote, fill the Orange City Library with even more books that celebrate the life experiences and contributions of LGBTQ plus people and leaders.
Oh, nice.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Now, after they reached the first target amount that they'd set for the fundraiser, the library urged him to do the same for other LGBTQ organizations and other local libraries. And so he's done that. They've kind of diversified the portfolio, if you will. So here's what I want you to do. I want everybody go right now, go to SarahTalk.com/act to donate to this fundraiser, and then go to American Atheists and become a member. Because they're doing great work. And I tell you what we'll do. Did we ever figure out a dollar amount?
No, we didn't, but
you get to decide then. So here's what I want to do. For every Sarah Talk listener that donates to the Facebook fundraiser between now and next show?
Sure.
Okay. Now and next Saturday, Sarah Talk will donate one LGBTQ empowering book to our local library as well. So what do we say? $5, $10? What do you think?
Well, I think a good LGBT book with like really good information probably run you about $30.
Yeah. So anyone who donates, how much? That's what I'm saying.
Anyone. Oh, I thought you were like total.
No. If anyone donates, let's say $10. If you donate $10 to this Facebook fundraiser, we'll buy a book and donate it to our library.
Oh. Okay.
What do you think? 10? 5?
Yeah,
5
sure.
to what?
I don't know.
$10. You can do $10.
$10.
Anybody who donates $10 to...
It's too late for this.
Go to SarahTalk.com/act.
Megan's like, math? Come on.
I've been puppy sitting all day. My brain's not...
So donate $10 to the American Atheists fundraiser for this local library and other organizations. We'll buy a book for each person that listens, and we'll donate to our library. And look, they just raised the maximum limit on our nearly maxed out credit card, so we're fine. I'm sure we can figure this out. And we only have 12 listeners anyway, so I'm sure
We go to the same school of finance.
So I'll make it work somehow. It's worth it. After you donate to the fundraiser, forward your receipt to producer@sarahtalk.com so we'll know it's you and that you listen to the show. Go to SarahTalk.com/act to get in on that. All right, so I think what a great thing that they're doing for the community.
Yeah, that's awesome. Seriously.
Support them if you can. So then I want to talk, the first thing I want to talk about with the midterms, and I posted this in some of our atheisty groups. To the listeners, I want to know if you voted in a church and you notice them not following the rules. I want to hear about that. And one church in Newport Richey openly, blatantly violated election rules. Kinda. Okay, kinda. The pastor of Grace of God Church, which served as a polling place in Pasco County, which I already have issues with.
Yes.
The pastor plops this sign out in the church 100 feet away from the polls that says, quote, "Don't vote for Democrats on Tuesday and sing Oh How I Love Jesus on Sunday." End quote. Now, they posted a picture of this sign to their Facebook group, and it has since been taken down. A number of people reported this violation to the supervisor of elections, Brian Corley, who commented saying that he spoke to the pastor who put up the sign and said he would not take the sign down. Corley explains, regarding the above referenced sign, per Florida law, our authority ends at the 100 feet from the entrance of the polling place. Beyond the 100 feet, I have no legal authority, and in this case, it's private property. So technically, this sign was legal. But as I argued with someone on social media, who's like somebody that my sisters grew up with back home, just because it's legal doesn't mean it's right.
Exactly. You're purposefully undermining everything the Christians do is fucking deceitful.
Yeah.
Why is that?
And I feel like that's such a big lesson that we need to teach more clearly in elementary and secondary schools. Like,
yep.
The law is the bare minimum.
Yeah.
The law is literally the bare minimum. And so we can do better than that. It's the reason why, all that stuff about Trump and the fact that their entire business has been a sham for years and they've been defrauding the government. No one cares because they're like, well, it's mostly legal. So, no big deal. It's like, that's literally the bare minimum they could have done.
Right?
These are not great Americans. These are not what you want to build a country on.
They're fucking con men.
So my suggestion was, okay, maybe we need to look at this 100 feet thing.
Yes.
Right? So when we go to our polling place, you can see where exactly,
where the end of the measurement is.
Yeah, exactly where that line is, because there's 4 million election signs for the different candidates all plucked into this one spot.
Double stacked on top of each other.
Yeah.
4 high.
What? So people were out there like, okay, this is 100 feet. Wait, no, right here.
Yeah,
or
right.
Here? Okay, yeah. Let's put the signs right here.
Somebody, I'm sure they brought a tape measure out. I really believe they did.
Well, especially if you're putting your sign out and you've spent money on that sign, and if you violate it, anybody will come and pluck it up and it's gone. They're not going to just move it. They're going to take it.
Right. But if the
so the sign that I hate.
Yeah,
sure.
Exactly.
Well, 2 feet. They didn't realize.
And for me, the idea is like, in the same way that we should have a secular government, if our electioning process is supposed to be neutral,
right,
then there shouldn't be signs allowed anywhere near the polling place. Your mind should have been made up by that point, and you're done. Like,
exactly.
You go in, you vote your ballot. But I also think, and I argued with this old family friend, like, okay, so maybe it's legal and maybe it's not right, but I'll tell you where you don't see a sign that says don't vote for Democrats on Tuesday and sing Oh How I Love Jesus on Sunday. You don't see it at the polling place, which is in a school. You don't see it at the polling place that's at the library. You don't see it at the polling place that's in the Trailer Park Community Center. The only place you see that sign is outside of a church.
Exactly.
And they should not be polling places.
Maybe we can just not do churches.
No, I've never understood why they're at churches in the first place.
Well, especially when there's plenty of other options.
Well,
between the libraries, the American Legions, the
right. There. Okay, so here's the problem. There are, but there aren't. The Freedom from Religion Foundation has a great write-up about this, and they give you some advice on like what to do if you have a problem with your polling location being in a church. And I'll give you some of the highlights. One of them is, so our location is a church. We don't vote there because we have early voting, right? So that's one way they get around it, is by saying, well, you don't have to vote in your precinct church. You could vote early. You could vote by mail, right? There are other options. There are other things that you can do. You don't have to vote in that church if it's so offensive to you. We've provided other options. So that's one thing. And then there's no way to really like litigate. You're not going to take somebody to the supervisor of elections to court and get that changed. So really the only way to do it is for you to do all the work. You have to find the secular alternative. And by the way, it has to have so much parking, and it has to be ADA accessible, and it has to have, there's so many things that the requirements that have to be met, that now there really aren't that many more options. So anyway,
that's frustrating.
So the supervisor elections here says, I told him that his decision would result in us not using his facility as a polling place. Good. And it would cost the taxpayer money to notify the voters of a change of a polling place and legal advertising. Also an inconvenience to those voters in that precinct who must now go to a new polling place in the future.
Yep.
The person who runs the church's Facebook page posted several response comments, including, quote, God's dedicated property does not change on the first Tuesday of November every 2 years. It is in the same vein, spelled wrong, as our marquees, spelled wrong, that is used to share a message. I'll risk losing our 501c3 and honor our sacred rights to free speech, end quote. Now, beyond this local response, the Freedom from Religion Foundation did kind of sound the alarms. They contacted the IRS. IRS regulations specify that 501c3 organizations, which include churches and other religious organizations, are prohibited from participating in or intervening in any political campaign on behalf of or in opposition to any candidate for public office.
Or party.
So does that get you around the 100 feet mark? Maybe I think that's where they're going, is saying, look, you were playing partisan politics on the grounds of the church, and I hope like hell they revoke their 501c3. I really do.
Yeah.
Yes.
They deserve that shit.
You shouldn't get tax discounts while playing games like this.
Exactly.
Speaking of 501c, I've got a new business plan. I'm going to form the Secular Coalition for Church-Free Voting Spaces in all districts.
There you go. I like it.
Yeah, I like that. Something there.
Moving on. The here in Florida, Governor / maybe Senator-elect and Skeletor character actor Rick Scott
So disgusting.
He's now filed a lawsuit asking for an investigation into the ongoing ballot count because he believes liberals in Broward County are trying to steal the election. He even went so far as to claim that Broward and Palm Beach County election supervisors were engaging in rampant fraud.
I'm so confused by this whole thing because I always thought Broward County was a red county.
Yeah.
And
wasn't Broward the one that fucked up the Hang Chads?
Yes.
Wasn't that? Yeah, okay. That's what I thought.
But Broward, like I grew up in Broward, and I always felt, because I mean we had freaking Century Village, which is like a retirement home the size of Disney World property, like. So I don't know. I just always felt like everybody there was totally red, but apparently they do not have a red history. I had to go do some homework.
Really?
They've always leaned Democratic since like 80 something.
Mm.
Like, how did I don't know how I didn't know that, but.
Well, I think what terrifies me the most here is that when you listen to the messaging, the Republican Party isn't just arguing against a recount, which, by the way, is dictated by the election laws, right?
Those laws are. It's not.
But they're arguing against just counting the actual ballots that were cast in the first place,
right?
The party that the.
What evidence do we need that they don't like people voting?
Right. That's what I'm saying.
Just don't like it.
Yeah. This is the party that thinks liberals are out running around graveyards stealing the identities from freshly filled in graves in order to beef up the Democratic. They really believe that this stuff happens in large enough numbers that it would make a difference if it were even actually happening. But that party doesn't want the votes counted.
I am all for conspiracy theories if they're interesting enough. I find it interesting. I don't necessarily believe them all, but holy crap. What is this world coming to?
Oh.
Jesus. I mean, come on.
It's just not even, what's so sad about it is it constantly reminds you of how cynical they are. Because my mind would not come up with that stuff.
No.
It's like, no, someone just misplaced some damn votes, which is very human.
Well, and that happened. I saw that they found boxes
there was
in
a
one
box
of the teachers'
in a school, in a storage supply unit
Yeah.
of provisional ballots or something that wasn't taken. Like, how do you just misplace the whole box of ballots?
You mean all this box of votes?
Yeah. Oh, these Democrat ones here.
It's a blue
Sorry,
box.
I found it. Yeah. I don't know how you be a Republican and not also be bothered by this. Like, if it was the other way around, half a percentage point against Bill Nelson was in the lead. You best damn well believe Rick Scott and the GOP would be out there screaming, "This isn't fair. Every vote has to be counted."
But exactly. It almost confirms, though, what they already believe with these conspiracy theories, that their vote doesn't matter, that it's picked already.
Yeah.
That nothing matters. It's like, it confirms that. If they're, say the Recounts, saying they're doing something funky.
What?
Yeah.
It's I'm just saying, like, these conspiracy theorists are all about that shit.
Yes.
They're lying. And so, like, anytime if you have to recount stuff, it's because they're lying to us.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely.
You know what I
Definitely.
mean? Like,
I'm like, Broward is so not Southern.
Yeah. Well, and
That's what I'm up on.
Listen, they're fucking Southern, all right? All of them are Southern down here.
I grew up in Broward. I will tell you, they're not.
Right.
Like half of Broward County is like, oh God, half of Broward County are octogenarians.
Yeah.
And the other half are college age kids that or baby boomers. I guess that there's a quarter of college kids and a quarter of baby boomers that just are complacent and like whatever.
Yeah.
So we're closer with the surfer dude.
But what's clear is Republicans are anti-democratic, period.
Yeah.
Everything that was given to us actually as a right is actually a privilege. Somehow they've like remastered that over the years to think that everything is a privilege except for owning a gun.
Yeah.
Yes. Now that God-given.
Yep. Yeah. That should be issued to you at the hospital when you're signing your birth certificate. Every year, every baby gets a gun, and chicken in every pot.
I really think every baby should get a musket.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Okay, moving on. Good news. Okay.
Yay.
Woo!
So,
all right, good news.
We made it to the good news.
We made it to the good news
portion of the show.
Now, there are some stories you may have missed. Some you may have not missed, but we certainly missed a few while we were crying tears into our whiskey over Florida, Texas, and Georgia being garbage states. I just think we were so gutted over Florida.
Oh yeah. Because at the end of the day, Ron DeSantis has nothing for us.
Yep.
He has nothing for us. Like, I was reading this great article a couple days before the election where Andrew Gillum was talking about one of the first calls he was going to make if he won the election was to Jeb Bush. Because at the end of the day, he recognized that even though they were on opposite sides, Jeb Bush truly seemed to care about Florida and tried at least to be a governor for the entire state. And it was like, oh my God, he's already ready. He's ready. He knows the questions. He has the team. He's ready to do this damn work.
I love that man.
Sit on his ass for 8 years. Let's hope not.
No, he won't be sitting on his ass. He'll be building blocks, walls down, you know,
with his baby
on the Miami. He'll be building a wall on the Miami Broward County line border.
It was what I think we were really gutted because it was so clear how poor of a candidate Ron DeSantis was.
Yeah.
I think the thing, like, if Adam Putnam had have won, I still would have totally, wanted Andrew Gillum, obviously, and I would have, been still gutted.
Okay.
But I never doubt that Adam Putnam is a Floridian at the end of the day. He really cares, and he like, you know what I mean? Like, he has the roots here.
Yeah.
He's still
trash. He has different ideals, but he cares about the state.
I just can't look.
Exactly.
I don't know. I just can't look at Adam Putnam and not see one of the Children of the Corn kids grown up.
It's like, how do you be from Florida and be that pale? Like, what is that? We were just saying that. Oh my gosh, he was just like, where were you? Where have you been? Like, where? But yeah, he's total North Florida. He's North Florida all day, every day.
Panhandle.
Yeah. And the more north you get, the more south you go.
That's true.
So anyway, I think because of all of that, like when we did the election show, I think we downplayed a lot of the good news because we were just wretched over
it was really
this.
it was hard to focus on anything that was positive.
So here's some good news, right? We won back the House. That's a big fucking deal. So Democrats are going to chair all the House committees. They'll have the power to subpoena. They'll be able to conduct inquiries. They can request Trump's tax returns.
Maybe that's
released.
why Trump is so grumpy on the media.
Yes, they could. Though it'd be worthless. They could even initiate impeachment proceedings, which because the courts won't the Senate won't confirm it, but they could.
I don't know if he gets grumpy enough. The Senate might have to.
They might. But there's no more shitty tax plans favoring the wealthy. So we kind of got the checks and balances back in a small way, right?
At least a little bit.
We got some power. Yay!
And here's the thing. I think Trump knows it.
Oh, well, yeah.
So look at all of the wild shit that's happened just since the midterms, right? A day after the midterms, House Elf Jeff Sessions was put out to pasture.
House Elf.
They gave him a sock and told him he was free. Dolby. The guy he put in to replace him, Matthew Whitaker, has openly stated that the Mueller investigation into Trump and Russia has gone too far already. And remember, we're expecting results from that kind of any day now.
Yeah.
Not to mention, he jumped over the Deputy Attorney General, Rod Rosenstein, who should have moved up in the chain of command. If you were, following that.
The whole thing is obviously fishy.
And it looks like he's setting up the chess pieces to muddy up the Mueller investigation. There's talk about starving the funding so that the investigation just kind of grinds to a halt. If not straight out firing Mueller himself, I wouldn't put that past him either. We talked about he's amped up the attacks on the free press. So there's a lot going on right now. But I want to talk about the good news that came out of the midterm elections, right? Here's some. In Texas's Harris County, which is the largest county in Texas and the third largest in the U.S., which is the Houston area, it has more than 4 million people. 19 black women were elected judges in Texas. Wow. In fact, all 38 of those district judges that were elected were Democrats, including those 19 black women.
And I got to tell you, those good old boys out in Texas are going, oh, damn, I better hide my guns.
Yeah. And my swastika tattoo.
Yeah, that too, right?
That's awesome.
I love it.
In the U.S. House, a record number of women were elected, and we talked before, a record number of women, a record number of LGBTQ candidates ran. It was a feminine rainbow wave, blue wave. Like there really was a lot of good stuff that came out of this.
There was, I don't remember where it was, but it was a first Native American.
Yeah, it's coming up.
Oh, okay. All right.
Be an MMA fighter, yes.
Coming up.
Sorry.
So you're talking. Let me skip ahead. You're talking about Democrats Deb Haaland and Sharice Davids, who became the first Native American women elected to Congress. And Davids is also the LGBTQ
that's
candidate.
The one I was going to talk about. Yeah,
the very first one representing Kansas.
Who Rachel Maddow had her.
Oh yeah.
I was like, yeah,
that's
you
awesome.
go girl.
Yeah, she's awesome.
It looks like last I looked, Lucy McBath, who's a woman of color and the mother of Jordan Davis, who was shot and killed in a 2012 racist fucking hate crime.
That's crazy.
Looks like she's declared the winner of Newt, of all things, Newt Gingrich's old seat in Georgia. Hallelujah.
Man.
Such a good sign for the future.
It really is.
I mean, Georgia's on the cusp of being a Democratic state.
Yeah.
It's already.
Like, that's so wild.
Yeah.
It's wild. Like, yeah.
I mean, same thing with Florida. Like, we're right on the cusp.
Yeah.
Right.
When there's like less than a half of a percentage point between two major elections.
And when you look at those, when you look at the Andrew Gillum race, when you look at the Bill Nelson race, even Stacey Abrams, to all of you that have this "my vote doesn't count, my vote doesn't matter" mentality. Okay, again, I've said this before. When I lived in Illinois, my vote didn't mean shit. Chicago goes blue, the state's done. The end. It doesn't matter what I vote because Chicago decides Illinois. But here in Florida, your vote is worth like 5 times as much as what it is in Illinois.
Right.
It's really fucking important.
Yes.
It's really important.
Yes.
Well, it's still so weird because like it seems like the whole state looks like when you look at it, it's like the whole state looks red.
Yep.
Yeah.
But there's like 3 blue spots.
Yeah. Where the books are.
Where the books are.
Where the universities
where
are.
the schools are.
Yeah.
Where the large.
Where the population centers are.
The smart people.
But it's true. Look how many colleges there are in Orlando. Look how blue Orlando is.
Yeah.
Jacksonville is blue, which is weird to me because
you've been there.
There's a lot of news that comes out of Jacksonville that makes you think it wouldn't be so blue.
Yeah.
Definitely. And
But then you go down, the Miami
part of the state.
It really is.
Because it's like it's built up. It's a legit city on its own. It has plenty of industry. But at the same time, you're right, Becca. Some of the news that comes out of there, you're just like, what?
Right.
What?
Like,
how did that happen there? And then you've got Miami, which is just little Havana.
Yeah.
So you have your minority Latino vote, which always goes blue, and except for that one guy.
Yeah.
Right. That one guy in that van. I don't.
Yeah. Oh man. Here's another good news. 24 NRA-backed candidates and longtime gun lobby supporters were defeated in House contests.
Oh, thank God. Oh, that's excellent news.
Thank God.
There are
not that. Yeah.
There are now over 100 women elected to the House of Representatives.
Yes.
Hell yeah. Democrats Ilhan Omar in Minnesota and Rashida Tlaib in Michigan became the first Muslim women elected to Congress.
Mm-hmm.
Holy shit, that's great.
That is amazing.
That's huge.
That's incredible that can even happen in this country.
Right?
I'm so impressed by that.
I want to read so much more about their races because I really want to understand how they did that, especially in Michigan.
Right?
Yeah.
That's where my sister is.
Ooh,
really?
You have a sister in Michigan? We need an address because I heard they also legalized recreational weed there.
I know. She's going to be not happy about that.
I'm just saying we're going to need the hookup.
We're just going to need go visit.
What is going to be next? We're going to get it. We're going to get that.
I hope so. Oh my God.
It's better when it's illegal.
There's no reason for it to be illegal. So stupid.
Feel better.
It's harder to know what kind of quality you're getting if you've got to go underground to get it.
I don't have time for all of those like weird dealer
right
anymore.
Yeah.
Shady. You don't know if you're gonna get arrested because you don't.
Yeah.
The Pineapple Express relationship that you have to have.
Here's another really cool one, and I'm gonna fuck this name up. Colorado's Brianna Titone.
I'd say Titan.
Tight one.
Whatever. Tit one.
Anyway,
it's spelled tit one.
She became the first openly trans lawmaker in Colorado in the state legislature.
Oh, maybe it's Titoni.
And she's the fourth, She's the fourth in the nation, right? Danica Rome, and then there were 2 others we talked about that were in special elections. Anyway,
yeah.
So she's the fourth now in the nation, which for trans people to have been elected to office in state state legislatures is a huge deal.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Huge. Ayanna Pressley, the first black woman to serve on Boston City Council, became the first black congresswoman from Massachusetts.
Mm-hmm.
Huge deal.
Wow. Incredible. It's all these, a northern state.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's supposed to be so progressive. So post-racial.
Like 2018, we finally got a black person on the. Are you serious?
Yeah, the first one.
Holy
It's insane.
shit.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Like, I expect that out of Georgia. You know?
Yeah, right? Yeah.
But Massachusetts,
Mississippi,
come on.
Louisiana,
Yeah, sure.
any of those along the belt.
Right. South of the Mason-Dixon, I expect that. Here's another northern state for you. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez in New York became the youngest woman elected to Congress.
She is
29
awesome.
years old. And remember, she's like Bernie style progressive.
Right. And she like hit the streets. Like she was going all in from the beginning. And it was amazing to see her story.
She's great.
And it's amazing. I just read a story that I love everything about her because she's so necessary and she's giving an angle that's so rarely seen. Like she just was tweeting about the fact that, you know, she worked at a bar and she ran for office. She didn't take any PAC money. So she doesn't have deep pockets with tons of money. No. So right now her and her partner are like kind of scraping by to try to figure out how she's going to get an apartment, you know, maintain apartments in DC and in New York before she starts getting paid as, you know, a member of Congress. And that's so real. Yeah. That's so real. Because I remember like being in college and like going to grad school and like making decisions about what grad school I would go to or what jobs I would have and all this stuff based on like, what can I afford right now? What will kill me?
That's a thing that people can connect with, that real people who are living life in America can connect with. Absolutely.
Exactly. She is a part of the working poor. And that is a huge concern that even though this economy is supposedly booming, the working poor is a huge concern. There's too much of our population that's on the edge. And I love the way she's constantly driving that home.
Right, but we're not talking about the working class white people enough.
Yes.
Okay? All right.
We need to talk about working class more. Sorry, my bad. For a second, talking about the working class. Thinking about all different types of people.
Trump is going to give you a tax cut before election season.
Yeah, right. You're fine. You're good.
Oh,
God. Colorado's Jared Polis, we talked about this on election night, elected the first openly gay governor, which this warms my heathen fucking heart so much. That bigot fucking Baker who went to the Supreme Court over his right to refuse service to gay people now has a gay governor. That's so fucking great.
I hope that governor tried to order his election night cake from Baker.
So good. Yes.
I want the gayest celebration cake ever.
That partner is apparently going by the first gentleman, and I just think that's
yes,
so that is classy.
It's adorable.
So classy. Yes.
Yeah. I watched their announcement speech, whatever, and it was so cute. And the crowd went nuts. It was
of course
so great.
They did.
Oh, so good.
Adorable.
Which is like, I don't understand. Why don't you want your world to look like this? I never understand.
I don't get it.
Republicans' worldview. Like, why?
It's because they're prude and they don't. They don't see people. They just see.
Yeah, it's informed a lot. Well, we all grew up in it. It's informed by misinformation.
Sure.
Yeah. Here's a big one for me. Texas, Republican State Representative Ron Simmons was unseated by Democrat Michelle Beckley. This is important because Simmons, as you may recall, was the author of that failed anti-transgender bathroom bill that they tried to shove through last year in a special session.
Wow.
Thank God.
Yep.
Yeah,
Bye.
Awful. I can't believe they did that. I'm just...
That is a win. That is definitely
a huge win.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm curious about this bathroom stuff right now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you are. And let me just say, let me make a note of where I left off. Thank you. We had a wonderful argument with somebody on your Facebook today.
I was so mad. I came to that party way too late, so I didn't even put any 2 cents in.
But the number of people, on your friends list who jumped in to defend and support made me feel really good.
Yeah.
Yes.
It really did. And it really made me happy too, because I was like, I'm about to jump in and everybody just went in for me. And saying exactly what I was about to say.
Yes.
And I'm like, thank you. Like this, I'm so happy that the community that I've connected with has been so supportive of the ideals of just people being people and
stop being fearful just because you don't know it. Like stop it. And I hope that he's taken this because it was a swarm for sure.
Yeah,
it was an effective ass
Right?
I hope that he's taken this and said, "Ooh, maybe I need to rethink."
Well, you know, there's a part of me that wanted to street epistemologize the guy and say, hey, DM me. Let's just you and me chat, because I want to know where this belief comes from, right? You are afraid, because at one point they said, well, you know, Brent, if you had daughters, you might have a different, right?
I hate
you
it
might
when
have
they
a
say
different
things like that.
So tell me where this fear comes from. Why do you believe that your daughter is not safe in a restroom if transgender people are allowed to go into any restroom that matches their gender identity? And your reason is going to be, well, you can't let men into restrooms because they're, you know, they have penises and they just have to fuck everything. But when you inspect the reasons why, right, the next question is, if, hypothetical situation here, if it could be shown to your satisfaction that allowing transgender people to use the restrooms that they choose doesn't negatively impact children in restrooms, would that move your opinion on the issue? And whether that answer is yes or no, then you follow down that rabbit trail. But I think that's a more effective method, again, than saying, look at all my data. Nuh-uh. Look at all these news stories. There's nobody, this never happens. Trans people have been using the restrooms for years and nobody's been hurt. And you show me one piece of evidence to the contrary. I don't know that that's effective.
Well, that's been the argument for years, and we still have to. I think you're probably right.
But the one argument that I absolutely loved was like, look, this is just Jim Crow dressed up in drag.
Right.
Because it is.
Exactly what I said.
These are the same arguments that were made again. Well, we can't let black people into the same places as white people because what might happen to our children? And then it was the gays. Well, we can't let the gay people in. It's the same tired story over and over and over again, just with different dressing.
They are scared of cooties.
Yes, scared of anything that's different.
Yeah.
And if it's different, then they must not be right.
Right.
Which is just a serious problem. Like, how do you get through the world like that?
Yeah.
Right?
Right?
Well,
like, do you travel? Do you kind of
No,
they don't.
No, they don't. So let me tell you, as someone who grew up in rural Midwest America, my worldview changed when I moved to progressive Central Florida, Orlando area, and started working at Disney and working alongside people who looked and talked and loved and whatever differently than me. Changed my entire worldview, even though I was struggling like with my own gender identity stuff. But that was on my own. But it took me coming to a place where none of that really mattered to anyone, and we were all just people, and we had jobs to do, and we just did our jobs. Yeah. These people, I mean, there are people from my high school graduating class of 32 still living in that podunk town of 1400 back in Cornville, still living there, and they might have left to go to college, but they came back. And so they haven't gone out and experienced a diverse world. And so they're stuck in that rut of, you know, what's different is scary.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Beckley, who unseated Simmons, Beckley says, we're way off the track here. Beckley said, quote, as an Aggie, I think that's a sports thing, I might know a thing or two about cow manure. And this bathroom bill, authored by my opponent, is the biggest load of cow manure to come out of the state in 2017.
Is an Aggie a short form for an agricultural?
Maybe. I think that's a team name.
Oh, but
one
what
of their
does
colleges.
The team have to do with horse manure?
Well, it may be. I don't know. I don't know.
I like her, Moxie.
I like it. I like what she said.
Right?
Hey, Google.
Great.
You know, I like what she said.
Yeah. And then I was reading this article, and we'll kind of wrap this part up. And I can't quote it directly or share the source because I forgot to save it. But basically, they were kind of making the case that Michigan saw the biggest voter turnout since 1967. Wisconsin suburbs turned on Governor Scott Walker, thank God.
Yep.
And in Pennsylvania, Democrats picked up 3 seats and a governorship with nearly 60% of the vote. Okay?
Yes.
Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and their argument was, these are 3 states that won Donald Trump the election in 2016.
Yeah.
So, assuming this trend carries, Democrats in power now can redistrict and make the maps a little more fair, and that their electoral college votes would basically put a second Trump term to death.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be great?
Hope it doesn't. It may put, him out in the primary, but I hope it doesn't bolster some middle of the road Republican, a Romney or something like that, or a Flake or Paul Ryan. Oh, that would just unnerve me, because that's the thing about these voters, the sort of Obama to Trump voters, is that you don't know. You just don't know.
Because they don't care.
You don't know where they're going to go. But this is positive news, though.
Yeah,
it's good news.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
We're gonna win.
I don't know. So I've said this before. There's part of me that wonders if he'll even run for re-election. I don't know. So one part of me thinks, no, his ego is way too big. There's no way that he would be like, nope, I'm done. That he would want to stay in power.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's another part of me that he would be like, look, I made America great. Peace. Good luck.
Yeah. I'm
good.
You might be right.
Yes, both those things are completely plausible.
Because, his ego's actually big enough to say, I can't handle this.
Well,
yeah.
Right.
Well,
and he doesn't want to lose. He doesn't want to lose in a primary fight against another Republican. He doesn't want to lose.
No.
Or in the general, right?
Yeah.
He doesn't want to be seen as a loser. So if he goes out while he's still the president and just says, I accomplished the things I wanted to get done. Good luck.
Yeah.
What if he's...
It's going to be interesting to see how he responds to being in a divided government, because I think we're about to see what we all know he is, but I think he's going to start doing a really poor job of hiding it. I mean, he's not been doing very well at all, but I think that press conference was sort of evidence that, not having all of the power really does affect him.
It did.
Yeah.
It does. I mean, just him saying, what was the one where he was like, that was a racist question?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. What was that?
Where
one?
I think it's Yamiche Amador, she's a Black reporter from PBS, asked him in that same, the one with Jim Acosta asked him, you said that you were a nationalist. Are you concerned that this would have emboldened white nationalists, since that's their entire platform, part of their platform? And he told her it was a racist question. And it's like, okay, he's losing.
Why are you allowed to say it, but if anybody else says
I can't think of her name. She's from PBS NewsHour.
Yeah, I think it's Yamiche Amador, I think.
Yeah.
Yamiche.
Yeah, that one shook me too. I'm like, are you kidding me?
I just had a crazy, harebrained idea.
Look, what does he think racism is? I don't think he knows what racism means.
No. Absolutely not.
Like an umbrella works. He doesn't know.
And there's this movement too, though, that's like there's a large component of racist America that's like, yeah, but people are racist against white people. No, that's not how this works.
No offense, that used to be me, and I remember saying that shit. I'm so stupid. It makes me so mad. It's embarrassing. I can't. What am I supposed to? I was raised in a way to believe, that
was normal.
That was okay. Yeah. To always expect myself to be treated, whatever, and that us as the Christians were treated badly.
Yeah.
And the rest,
yeah,
we were the victims, and the trans and stuff like that were the ones encroaching on our freedoms by wanting to go to the bathroom.
Right? Just wanting to pee.
Just want to pee.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's wrap up the. Do you have something? Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say while we were talking about Trump and how he's gonna get out of not having to run again.
Right.
Maybe all of this crap with Putin is him secretly planning to fake his own death and then run away to Russia.
There you
go.
Because he really wants this Illuminati shit to be true.
Right?
Yeah.
Becca, you just said that, and I'm like, has all of this just been a really bad spy novel?
Right?
Oh.
That's what all of this has been.
That's why we haven't seen Tom Clancy for a while.
Okay, so I'm taking an informal poll.
Oh, okay.
2020 presidential pick. We're looking at a wide field that it could include Kamala Harris, Cory Booker, Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders might run again. Hell, even Hillary said something about like,
Listen.
I'd still like to be president.
Really?
Yeah.
I got my ticket. I think I figured it out. But
Brent and Nikki, what do you think? Who are you? Who's on the top 3? Or the top 2?
I said Elizabeth Warren. What do you think?
Elizabeth Warren.
I like Elizabeth Warren. What do you think?
What about Maxine Waters? I would love.
Oh my God.
I would love Maxine Waters.
Yeah.
Reclaiming my country can be her.
What he failed to tell you was when you're on my time, I can reclaim it. He left that out, so I'm reclaiming my time. Please. I'm reclaiming my time.
Yes.
That's her slogan right there, Reclaiming America.
Yeah. Right.
Awesome.
God, that would be so good.
Oh man. Okay.
I'm hoping so. I think Kamala Harris would be good. I'm not big onto Cory Booker because I feel like Cory Booker has an authenticity problem. I can't put my finger on it, but it's like something about. I feel his ambition more than I feel his passion for. If that makes any sense, like I know that he cares. I know that he's good at what he does.
Yeah.
But there's just something that feels
like
a little disingenuous.
He's gonna do something like something fucking dishonest.
Not even necessarily that, but just that I don't know he's ready for the fight.
Yeah.
Oh,
right.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right.
Yeah.
That's I think, and I'm really interested in that. Part of the reason why I am so interested in Elizabeth Warren being at least somewhat more a part of it than just being a senator is because we need someone who understands finance. Goddammit.
Yeah.
We need someone to completely overhaul all of Wall Street. Like that whole goddamn thing needs work. All of CFPB needs work. Like work needs to be done. And unfortunately, I feel like we don't have a lot of Democrats who are willing to do that kind of work.
Yeah.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
Because that's where we are now. Like I mean, yeah. And so she would be great. Kamala Harris would be great. I mean, I think we have a deep bench. But what I really wish the Democrats would do, and I think one of the biggest things that we don't do well as Democrats, and we need to take a line out of the Republican playbook, is we need to start creating deep benches. And instead of having, Nancy Pelosi, I love her to fucking death, but God damn it, I need y'all to retire to train some people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, stop dying in office. We need you to help us be the leaders of tomorrow. You're not give back, God damn it.
And how many times have we said on this show, the median age of the people writing our laws don't know how the internet works.
Right.
Right.
Hello.
Yeah. We can't even begin to regulate Facebook and Google because they don't know how things work.
Yeah, they don't even have a fucking Facebook.
No. Yeah. Right. So one of their staffers.
Like, I'm on MySpace.
One of their staffers runs it. So one of the things I thought of, you mentioned Elizabeth Warren. I think of, okay, so if Trump does run again, that messaging is going to be like orange marmalade versus Pocahontas. And that's going to be just a nasty racist.
Wait, what was that?
It's going to be orange marmalade versus...
Pocahontas. Although if really, I mean, it doesn't matter who runs against him. He's going to make up,
he's going to come up with something to call them.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be bad for anybody. That's the thing.
Yeah.
I mean, no one's going to be unscathed. I'm sure they're going to come up with terrible things for Kamala Harris because she has a history with, Wall Street and not being as, harsh as she should be and whatever.
Right.
Eric Holder. I mean, it's going to be bad regardless. It's just what I do know is I don't want it to be Joe Biden.
Really?
I need it down. Yes,
I think a lot of people just miss the bromance of Obama Biden.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's like a nostalgic like longing for that.
Listen, Joe Biden is charming as hell.
Yeah.
I mean, he's smooth. I get it. But at the same time, how many times are we going to let our political leaders blunder and just forgive them and keep giving them more responsibility?
Yeah.
Can they just go away? Can we just have, I hate this idea that we have this limited well of potential. And so we have to accept every problematic person,
right?
Because we only have a short bench. Well, part of the problem is because the people who we expect to give back aren't. That's why. And so we're like desperate. We're, as Democrats, we're desperate. And like, that's part of the reason we love Andrew Gillum so much, right? We're like, oh my God, someone who just gets all of it.
Yeah.
Same thing with POC with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
Yep.
We're so in love with her because we're like, holy shit, she understands the internet.
Yeah.
She gets working poor.
Yes.
She's from like the city. Like, it's just, and she's not gonna like stand there and like, like
she knows how to ride a subway.
On the bus. Go ahead.
She knows how to ride the subway.
Yeah, exactly. Like, this is a thing. This is a thing. And that's the problem that I have is like, it's not that I don't think Joe Biden has, merit. It's just, do we need a person approaching 80 doing something at a time where we're going to need some hard, pull up your fucking, your sleeves,
your bootstraps,
get digging in. We're going to have so much work to do in that first presidency, that first 4 years. It's going to be absurd.
Yeah.
And I just don't know that Joe Biden can do it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
What do you think? What do y'all think? What's your roster?
God, I don't know. I love Elizabeth Warren. I really do.
Yes,
I think Bernie Sanders needs to become an advisor.
Yes.
Of some sort, yeah.
Period. Like if you're gonna pick a campaign manager for 2020, Bernie Sanders.
Yeah.
He's like your Obi-Wan.
But yes,
He
really.
is.
But it worries me that so what we saw in 2016 was a split in the Democratic Party of the progressive wing and the moderate wing. And I don't know that we've mended that fence yet. And I think we need to, whatever happens, whichever one of these names floats to the top, we need to be prepared to go all in and support that candidate.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
In a way that we were not prepared to do so for Hillary.
Yes.
Right.
Or some groups.
Right. No, absolutely. Like, I voted for Hillary because I knew she would be a lot less worse than Trump. But she wasn't my favorite. I was a Bernie fan.
Come on,
yeah, you can't get around that unless you just don't care about people.
Most of the debates was her just pointing at Trump like she's the kid in the classroom at school and somebody else is like shooting fucking what are the spitballs at him or something like that.
Yeah.
Look at that! Look right now, teacher. Look,
like this person is clearly not meant to be president, and yet he's president.
Yes.
But I think we all underestimated how well the conservative machine had worked at demonizing Hillary over the years. I had no clue.
Yep.
I had no clue that the hate was that deep. No, I really did not.
Yeah, well, they're going to they want to put her as a fucking rapist and shit.
Right.
Yeah, she gets a lot. She gets blamed for a lot of things that she's not responsible
her
for.
and George Soros, so the two people that seem to be responsible for more fake shit.
Everything wrong with our country.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Unbelievable.
So I don't know. I don't know that answered the question of who my top picks are.
All right.
Well, I know what I don't want. I think what
I have mine.
I'm really concerned about. Oh, sorry.
No, you're fine. It's okay.
I think the thing that I'm most concerned about is the Democratic Party, the head honchos.
Yep.
I don't want them to take some kind of lesson that because Andrew Gillum and Stacey Abrams and Beto O'Rourke lost, that we shouldn't run proudly progressive candidates.
Right.
I really hope they don't get that memo.
The fact that all of those races ran so closely, that tells us something.
Oh,
it has to. Yes, Beto didn't win. Yes, Andrew Gillum didn't win. Yes, Stacey didn't win necessarily, but we don't know yet. But
hold on, they're counting. They're counting them right now.
But still,
Andrew Gillum might win.
Let's work in the world where they have lost all the races.
Okay, all right, fine.
They still have gotten closer than any centrist Democrat ever.
Yeah.
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 Yep, you're right.
If that nice white lady had won, what was her name? Gwen.
When
Who was she running against in the primary?
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, there's no way she would have gotten that many votes. There's no way.
But she was really friendly.
She was, but no one would have showed up. Like she would have had a serious turnout issue. She was serious.
Yep.
She was sweet.
Okay, so let me close this conversation out. I want to read a thing that I posted on our Facebook.
You're not gonna let me tell you who my picks were?
Oh, fine. Tell me who your picks
Yeah,
are.
like what kind?
I'm looking at the clock. You're writing down time left? Question
That's
mark
because I've
on
got
the
to
paper.
text somebody about dropping a kid off.
Okay, go.
Oh my gosh. I would love to see, as much as I want Andrew Gillum to win this Florida thing, but I think a great ticket would be a Waters Gillum ticket.
Yeah.
Ooh.
What about Beto
That
and
would be
Gillum?
my wildest dreams.
I thought that at first a Beto Gillum ticket would be like amazing, but I really think Waters.
Do you think people are ready to vote for two black people into the?
You know what? I don't care what they think.
No, I
Who
know.
the
I'm
fuck
just
are they?
listen. We live in a red county. I know what this place is like. That's
I
all
know.
I'm saying.
Listen,
I'm
okay.
ready.
Awesome.
But think about that for a minute, though.
I'm
Like-
ready. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Okay, so let me read this thing that I posted, and then we'll move into the last segment here.
Maybe a Waters Beto.
Okay.
So here's what I wanted to say post-election. While we didn't win all of the hot elections that we'd hoped for, I know that you, our listeners, went out there and voted for compassion, humanism, genuine care for people who are not like you in a variety of ways. A lot of these races were extremely close, and while I'm frustrated that it feels like half our country, older white men and to a lesser extent white women, according to post-voting data, that these people care more about their 401k and their stocks than they do about my right to exist in public without discrimination, or the plight of black Americans, or the needs of people fleeing persecution and war from across the globe, or the hopes of school children who just want to learn without the fear of being shot up. The close margins show me that you're out there too, caring for others even when the benefits to you aren't direct, aren't immediate, or apparent. So this is my game plan going forward. Get involved in a local charity if you haven't already. If you're not already involved, find a local charity. Find a homeless shelter, anything that will help you get to know the America that needs us most. Come together around whatever candidates float to the top for 2020 that best embrace our shared humanist views and values. And get 3 of your friends to register to vote right now. Don't wait for 2020. Now.
Yeah.
Get them to register right now. Get more people involved.
Yeah.
Okay. That said, let's move into the final segment tonight, and I'm going to play the Florida Man intro provided by Brent. We'll play that tonight. We have 2 of them now. Becca and I made a Batman-themed Florida Man.
Oh, clever.
If you haven't heard that, I'll send it to you. But if you want to make a Florida Man theme song and send it to us, we think that's a hoot and would be happy to play it. So let's go to a Florida Man.
Well, you know what they say. All the best stories start with Florida Man, 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 Florida. And sometimes a Florida woman.
I love it so much.
I love that.
It's so great.
Oh, that tickles me so much.
Right?
Oh,
Me too.
It's so great. Okay, so the Florida Man is now brought to you by our top patrons. Part-time patron Russell, SarahTalk OG co-host Mandy Imus, Lamont, Dan, and John, whose name has been changed to I vote, I like voting, we all voted, I still vote.
Oh my God, John.
So the first story tonight, we have 2. The first story, and I couldn't write this one any better than the fine folks over at People Magazine did. So I'll plagiarize a little bit. Employees at the St. Augustine Alligator Farm Zoological Park were left baffled when they came across a floating croc shoe and discarded clothes in the facility's crocodile pit Tuesday morning. Desperate for answers, staff members took a look at the park security footage and discovered a man had broken into the farm and jumped on a roof into the crocodile exhibit, which is home to 3 12-foot Nile crocodiles.
Oh my God.
Employees contacted police, who had very coincidentally just responded to an incident in which a man wearing nothing but underwear was seen crawling on the lawn in a concealed manner near the park. The man, who police identified as Florida Man and the suspect caught on camera at the alligator farm, Brandon Keith Hatfield, had sustained significant injuries to his feet and legs. When questioned by police, Hatfield allegedly said he had been attacked by an alligator, telling officers he had run into an old man who was walking an alligator on a leash and was all of a sudden surrounded by these baby alligators.
What the?
What? So they review the footage and they find out that's
I missed it. Where was
he
this?
took his clothes off and jumped into the thing. Where was this? St. Augustine.
I was walking over here, man, and all these fucking alligators came out like they were squirrels.
Baby alligators.
This little old man with an alligator on a leash. What the? Did they test him for drugs?
Yeah, they were. The last I read, they were concerned that he was probably on something.
I would think so.
Yeah.
I was singing a song and they got me all dressed in this blue dress.
Well, they called my feet.
Yeah. First thing later.
The second story tonight, I don't even know how to pitch this because, so the Florida Man is the world's worst superhero, right? That was the meme created by this Twitter account person, whatever. But occasionally, it works, and it comes off as a good. Occasionally, Florida Man does good. That's what I'm trying to say. This from the Tampa Bay Times. Millennial Miguel Camacho is a hero to the family that spent 5 days searching for their stolen dog Zeus. And he saved the day in the most millennial way possible by checking Facebook on his phone. Camacho was in a West Tampa park on Thursday studying for a test that evening for his journeyman electrician's license. He finished early, so he did what most millennials with some time to kill would do. He took out his phone and started scrolling through Facebook. A friend had shared an article about a kiteboarding dog. He clicked on it. He learned that the 7-year-old, 17-pound black and white dog had been reportedly stolen on Sunday by a white man in his 60s or 70s in a gray sedan. While he was reading, a gray sedan pulled up next to him. Out walked a white man in his 60s or 70s. Then he pulled a black and white Jack Russell Terrier out from the car.
Oh my God.
I'm sitting there thinking, reading the article, he said, the guy pulls up, gets out of the car, grabs the dog, and I'm thinking, man, this looks just like that dog. The dog was Zeus, and he comes from a famous family, Dimitri Minorities. I've never heard of these people. They're not so famous. World-renowned kiteboarder. That's why I don't know who they are. And his 16-year-old son, Cameron, is Zeus's owner and a member of Team USA, which will compete in the 2020 Olympics. They were at a kiteboarding competition at the North Skyway Bridge Beach. Zeus, a kiteboarder himself, the dog, was hanging in the truck, as he always does when the family goes to events. When they got back, he was gone. Maybe don't leave your dog in the truck.
Yeah.
The family contacted police, hired a pet detective, and even offered a $3,500 reward for the return of Zeus, no questions asked. They just wanted their dog back. Camacho hadn't even gotten to the part of the article where the $3,500 reward when he decided to take action. He took a photo of Zeus with his phone and sent it to the number listed in the story at about 4:55 p.m. "Hey, man, that's my dog," Cameron told him over the phone. The police were called, but they said they couldn't do anything without the dog owner being present. Cameron asked Camacho if he could keep an eye on Zeus and his apparent abductor, but it was remember, he was supposed to take a test later.
Oh, no.
It was getting close to test time. Still, Camacho said he could hear the pain of their loss in the family's voices, so he wanted to help. Camacho gets in his car, follows the gray sedan for a few miles until the driver stops, gets out, and asks Camacho, "Why are you following me?" Camacho says, "I don't believe that dog is yours.
Wow.
I'm on the phone with his owner right now." Then he goes up to the sedan and calls out the name Zeus. The dog jumps out of the car and runs to him.
Wow.
And together they drove off.
Oh, that's awesome.
I'm gonna cry.
Right? So the family says we are feeling completely exhausted, yet elated. We're still pinching ourselves to see if we are dreaming. We're fortunate Miguel was there and was willing to help, willing to put himself into a possible dangerous situation to get our dog back. So the dog got back. They reported the information about the sedan, but they're not sure how police are going to respond. And the professor let him retake his test.
Oh, good.
Once he explained what happened.
What a great story.
The story of a Florida man gone right. I don't think we even need to vote.
No, that's the winner. That's beautiful.
I heard they've learned a lesson, though. Please don't leave your dog.
Yeah.
Don't leave your dog in
That's
the truck.
Come on, guys. Like,
That's wrong on so many levels.
right? Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's really great.
Yep, I loved that story. I had to include it. All right, hey, let's wrap this thing up. It's been a long night.
Yes,
it's been a really great time talking to you guys, and I appreciate your
You guys are
insights. And yeah, let's do it again. Come to the studio sometime. And,
Yes,
and
we're
we'll
going
hang out.
to.
Yeah,
so
we
Brent
definitely
can
will.
spill beer all over the studio.
Yeah, that was my main concern.
Well,
Your name is Brent,
no beer.
not Brett. So I
Oh.
think we'll be okay.
And my friends call me Brentley, so that's why I
There you
usually put that.
There you go.
We'll get you a toddler cup with a little straw and it's leak proof.
Yes.
That's what I'm
Why
talking
didn't we
about.
think of that?
What a great idea.
Foam bubble.
Our daughter had one and it had a straw in it, and even if you turned it upside down, that wouldn't come out the straw because
Yeah.
the straw had a special
Like seal.
Yes.
That's not neat because we were gonna go.
Yeah.
We were gonna go to see you guys, and then like that episode like happened, and I spilled the beer all over everything on the audio, and then Sarah, you listened to it, and then I was like, man, we can't go there now. You're gonna fucking spill everything, and so.
But yeah, this has been a great time.
Yeah.
It went by so fast.
One last thing. How was Seth Andrews?
Oh, I can't wait for tomorrow.
Great.
It was
Yeah.
so good.
Was it great?
He is awesome.
First of all, his PowerPoint game is so tight.
Right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
he was doing a PowerPoint while he was talking, and he was just like manipulating the images really well and putting all
Yeah.
this words over everything else. Like, someone knows how to PowerPoint.
Well, we're going tomorrow, so
I can't wait.
yeah, I can't wait.
Oh, yay!
Yeah.
And we was
He's gonna
really
love
interesting because we went to a Unitarian Universalist church,
Mhm.
which we didn't even know existed.
No.
And it was so interesting because we walked in,
Yeah.
and it's a beautiful church. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just gorgeous.
It's really cool.
And it was, so we were like, I think there was only out of maybe 60 people, what do you think? Maybe 50 or 60 people were there.
About 60. Yeah.
There was probably only like 12 millennials.
Yeah.
Everyone else
Oh.
was like 60 plus.
Wow.
Yeah, a lot
It
of
was
older folks.
so
They're-
interesting. And so he did like a question answer period. So his talk was mostly about be skeptical, make sure you have all the information, have perspective,
Yep.
and don't just blindly believe things,
Yep.
which is such a part of being a skeptic.
Right.
And it was interesting because, with the election, it's been really hard listening to some of the information about the exit polls and how white women are voting and how white men are voting. And it's just really disheartening. And then you're sitting in this room. I was the only black person in the room.
Yeah, she was. The
all
whole,
white folks.
the whole fucking
And
place.
it was like this older white man he was 89 years old.
Wow.
He asked a question, and I swear he looked just like Warren Buffett.
Ah.
What are we going to do? Because I've lived this life and I've seen all this progress happening, and now we're going backwards, and I'm so afraid. And it was so heartening being in that room and hearing that, because it was like,
From him.
okay, they do see it.
Yeah.
Some people, they get it.
Some older people that see
They
this
get
shit.
it. They see it. They don't just care about their fucking, 401ks and their Medicare. Like, they care. And they see it and they want to do something. And so it was really great. And he was wonderful. So, yeah, he was awesome. It was really awesome. You'll love it.
Cool. Well, I can't wait. All right. So last thing then, tell us one more time, where can we find the Unapologetix Podcast?
Okay, so we are on, so far right now, we are on Stitcher and SoundCloud, and just find us from Unapologetix, spelled with an X. If you were going to spell it like, apologetics, but with a un and an X at the end.
Yes.
Got it.
Does that help?
And then our email is unapologetix666@gmail.com.
Yeah, and please contact me. We love it. We love the feedback.
Awesome. Well, we'll, of course, put links to that in the show notes of this episode so that people can find you guys.
Thank you.
Nikki, Brent, thank you guys so much. This has been a lot of fun, and I can't wait to meet up with you guys and do this again and just hang out. It's going to be great.
Yes, and let us know how Seth Andrews goes.
We'll do. Yes, absolutely. All right. Y'all have a great night. Thanks again.
You too. Good night.
You too. Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Bye-bye. All right. What a good time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not yet. Okay, so let's just wrap this thing up because I gotta pee and we gotta get dogs taken care of and kids to bed and all of that good stuff. We want to thank our patrons at patreon.com/SarahTalk. Don't forget, go to SarahTalk.com/act to support that benefit and send us an email, producer@SarahTalk.com with your receipt. And we'll see you next week. You've been listening to Sarah Talk.
Sarah Talk is made possible by listener support. Visit patreon.com/SarahTalk to become a patron and help keep this program going. Contact Sarah and Company by email at producer@SarahTalk.com or call 224-40-SARAH. That's 224-407-2724. And follow us on social media, facebook.com/SarahTalkRadio and on Twitter @SarahTalkRadio. The opinions and information provided on this show are intended for entertainment purposes only. All opinions are solely that of the hosts and their guests. We make no representations as to accuracy, completeness, timeliness, or validity of any information and will not be liable for any errors or damages. Sarah Talk is a production of Sarah Austin Media.